Welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast. PrideOfDetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on Twitter, Pride of Detroit on Facebook. A bit of a somber PODcast coming to you now on wherever you get your podcasts, live on twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit or on youtube.com/@Pride of Detroit. We are going to get to the game itself that happened on Saturday. However, some big news happened right before we began, and we are going to dedicate a segment to talk about that. But first, as always, the crew. I am Chris Perfett, the adequate host, at Chris Perfett on Twitter, ready to begin a off-season of drinking. Not because of any kind of depression or any kind of sadness, just because I do like to drink rum. That's all there is to it. It's tasty. It's fun. Joining me, as always, Jeremy Reisman. I would normally say the fearless leader at Detroit Online. I'm also on Blue Sky, by the way, at Perfett. Jeremy, I think, has a few fears, but
I don't know if fears is the right word, but frustrations for sure. It's been a weird 48 hours here. I felt it's one of those things where it's like, you know what? Finally over it. Let's move on. Let's get going. Let's look to the future, and then
boom.
Ben Johnson to the Bears, and suddenly I'm pissed off all over again. Now, we'll get to why, like all of that in a minute, but just it's been a tough 48 hours for Lions fans, unfortunately.
Oh, sure. It always is after this. It always is when the carcass starts to get picked clean. Ryan Matthews, the rock god, no drop today, at Ryan_POD, unless Ryan wants a drop, but I feel like we should just start going straight away, Ryan.
Yeah. I know not a visual medium, but I guess it's just time to put on the off-season hat.
Oh, you got the fishing cap. Is it the fishing cap?
Yeah. Lions have gone fishing, so.
Where are the safari flaps? What are we doing here?
Well, you know.
You can't get grease on those. It'll ruin it.
Listen, man. Hate to say it, but Dan Campbell did say to Kevin O'Connell he'd see him in 2 weeks.
Just didn't know it'd be in Cancun, huh?
Yep. That's where they were going, Chuck. That's where they're going. Let's start with Ben Johnson, though. We will get to the game. We have to. I've put out my thoughts already. I would like the thoughts of Ryan, Jeremy, and I've kind of thought on my thoughts. And we're going to talk about what the future holds for the Detroit Lions right now. But Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, is no longer the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He is now the head coach for the Chicago Bears. And there are there's certain media out there that would lead you to believe that he's been working hard to assemble a star-studded coaching staff over there. We're not going to talk about the Bears part of it, or at least not right off the bat. I feel like this is a Lions podcast. We have to talk about what it means for the Lions, because I don't think about the Bears at all. Not one thought about the Bears.
Well, unfortunately, the Bears are in the division, so you have to think about them a little bit. They are in the division.
We will think about them twice a year.
Yeah.
That's all I need. I refuse to make this about the Bears. I want to make this about the Lions, because I feel like there is a lot of Jeremy, some right and some, there's a lot of concern about what the future of this offense looks like without Ben Johnson at the helm. I think the playoff game was some good, some bad of Ben Johnson, but it's predominantly been good all throughout these years with him here in Detroit. It's been a creative offense, it's been a fun offense, and it's been a star-studded offense. And I think a lot of fans for the Detroit Lions are going to wonder what that looks like without him in the lab being the mad scientist.
Yeah, I mean, no question. I think first and foremost is the relationship with Jared Goff. That was key to everything that the Lions have done over the past 3 years. It was key. It's why the Chicago Bears probably wanted Ben Johnson, right? Is because he took the time to get to know Jared Goff, to get to know what he does well, what he doesn't do well, what he likes to do, what he doesn't like to do, and built an offense around that. And it didn't necessarily fit any previous scheme. It was never about, hey, I'm Ben Johnson, this is what I believe in, now you have to go fit into that box. It was, okay, what do you do? What do I like to do? Let's meld it together and figure something out. And so you're losing that in some way. There's no getting around that. Whoever you're going to bring in next is not going to have that relationship with Jared Goff. It's not going to have a keen sense of what he does well or doesn't do well. Now, if you go internal, which is where I do think the Lions are going to go with this, I think they're going to do their due diligence and look at some outside coordinators and it's too early for me to name candidates there because we just got done with the season. Like, I'm not ready to dive headfirst into that. But the interesting thing about this whole thing from the Lions' perspective is what Dan Campbell said today, because he was asked, that's like, the reason I'm pissed off today isn't that they lost Ben Johnson. I knew they were going to lose Ben Johnson. I'm pretty sure they're going to lose Aaron Glenn. I've been making amends with that for weeks now. Going to the Bears is what sucks. But anyways, when it comes to Dan Campbell, I thought it was really interesting when he was talking about offensive coordinators and what they're looking for. And I think it's also a reminder of how valuable Dan Campbell is. He said, and was kind of referencing the mistake that they had made with Anthony Lynn. He needs to be more involved in the offense. Dan Campbell does. That's important to him. He needs to be part of that conversation. He needs to be part of the offense game planning each week like he has been. People overlook that, but I think the mistake that he made, that he owned up to a little bit today, was he kind of gave Anthony Lynn the keys to the car and didn't have enough of his own vision in the offense. And so that next offensive coordinator that they bring in is going to have to deal with that collaboration, going to have to not have the ego to allow that sort of collaboration. And that's why I think you might see someone within the organization take that job, because they already know what it's like. They already know the expectations for the offense. They already know the goals of the offense. All of that is already aligned with Dan Campbell. Plus, someone like Tanner Angstrand, I bet he has some sort of relationship with Jared Goff. I bet he knows how he operates, what he likes to do. And so that's where I think this goes next. But as Dan Campbell also said, like, he's going to take his time with this. He's not going to rush into a decision, because it's important to him to get this one right. I mean, it's critical that he gets this one right.
Yeah. Well, I think something else that Dan Campbell said today, too, was that he wants Jared Goff's input on a potential offensive coordinator. So that comes all the way back to the initial thing you said, Jeremy, was that it's not so much just losing Ben Johnson. It's losing somebody who had such a good relationship with Jared Goff. Something else that I think Dan mentioned in a roundabout way was, like, it's not necessarily going to be the best guys for the job. It's going to be the right guys for the job. And I think that continues to underscore how important it is to have relationships and how that's been key to everything, right? You start at the very top, and it's what has made any of this work, right? Like, we could get really lost in the weeds when it comes to losing Ben Johnson or potentially losing Aaron Glenn. And maybe even more, right? There's Hank Fraley, who's interviewing for Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator job. There's all these positional coaches that are
that could go with the coordinators, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely. But at the very top, there's a relationship between Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell that has got all this talent. And when we eventually talk about what happened on Saturday, I think that's one of my big takeaways, is that the Lions were so shorthanded that's why Saturday happened the way that it did. So I think to underscore this entire coaching search will be relationships, and those relationships with players. I know that's something that Chris really honed in on when it came to the conversation between Aaron Glenn and Tracy Walker. That was on that interview. That's why I tend to agree with Jeremy. I think that the hires are potentially going to be more internal, because you already have those relationships established.
Yeah, I have some reservations about internal, and that, like, historically sometimes doesn't work. Like, the Eagles went completely internal, and it took them some time to then readjust things after they kind of went through the same thing. But I feel like it's a little bit different for the Lions. They have all these other names that we kind of know that they've been wanting to promote them, because the job isn't just to get Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson head coaching jobs. The goal is eventually to see someone like Kelvin Shepard eventually get a head coaching job as well, or Scotty Montgomery. Like, they've been very good about right now assembling everyone that they've had inside who has these, who understands how the Lions operate, how they work. And I think the big thing is they have expected for quite a while, Jeremy, to lose both of these, and especially Ben Johnson.
Sure. Yep.
Like, we've done this multiple years now with Ben Johnson, and even though he goes to Chicago, there is one bag of salt that the Jacksonville Jaguars took on the side too, about how it wasn't what he was looking for down in Jacksonville. But, like, you knew how well he was coveted, and I've got to imagine they've knew this was always going to be a limited time they had left with Ben Johnson. And ultimately, at the end of the day, and it's something we'll talk about for when we start looking into the future, Ben Johnson does not take with him. I don't have up the numbers in front of me of how many All Pro and Pro Bowlers are on that offense.
Right.
Like you still have the personnel that the Lions have drafted, and that's when Ryan talked about organizational vision. That's part of it. They know what they want in players. They know how they've been wanting to draft players and sign players, and like that doesn't change just because Ben Johnson is out the door.
I wanna tackle two things that Lions fans are losing their mind over right now, because I think it's ridiculous. And the first is that he took the job so quickly, and that meant he was clearly checked out. Like he wasn't even focusing on Saturday.
There was also that Schefter tweet, to your point too, where it's like, and I mentioned at the start, this whole he's been busy assembling a star-studded coaching staff, which is
Right.
like, oh, he clearly wasn't preparing for the job or the game or whatever.
Put your kids out of the room for a second, cover the ears.
Oh no,
That is total horseshit. Like, I'm sorry, like that is not at all what's. If you're going into these head coaching interviews and you don't have your idea of staff, you're not going to get hired. Because that's half of the interview is talking about your vision for the staff, your vision for, like, it is so important to have those ducks in a row so that once you get hired, you can hit the ground running, because it is a race now. It is, well, like, we weren't, the other teams were waiting for this Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn thing to drop. And then it becomes a race to, all right, I mean, you saw how quickly Lou Arenamo got hired right after Ben Johnson gets Dennis Allen, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's because
dominoes
everyone is
are falling
prepared.
quick.
It's like you have to have all of that ready to go. And so if you are of the idea that Ben Johnson was not focused during Saturday, first of all, you're wrong. The offense performed pretty damn well on Saturday, and we're going to talk about that next segment, because I think people are overreacting to one or two questionable choices and saying, "Oh, well, he was showing off," or no. Ben Johnson was locked in. He stopped answering questions about coaching during the week because he was locked in. And I think any suggestion elsewhere is not only misguided and ignorant, but insulting to Ben Johnson. And I understand no one cares about Ben Johnson's feelings because he went to a division rival, and fine, that's fair. If you want to be upset about that, yeah, I'm a little upset about it too. But it also makes sense, right? He has his quarterback. He has a defense of at least a baseline of a good defense. Now, you can argue he doesn't have his GM. He's dealing with a franchise that hasn't done things the right way for a long time. And again, those are fair criticisms, but it seems for a while that Ben Johnson's eyes were on that Chicago job. I think Schefter even reported that he was considering it last year, but it never opened up, obviously. So it sucks that he's going to a division rival. He's a very, very good offensive-minded coach. I don't know if he's going to be a good head coach. I think there are questions still about his leadership. You know, he can be a little hard on players. Not everyone is going to respond well to that, but he's also been around Dan Campbell long enough that I believe he's probably learned some things about how to coach players hard and, you know, adapt to how certain players respond to certain coaching.
Yeah, I just wonder how all the insiders feel because they got scooped by a bunch of kids who just broke the Ben Johnson news early. They all had it before any of these guys had it.
Do you think Caleb Williams is like, I'm not falling for this again? You think you gotta like tell him in person? He's got to see Ben Johnson in person before he believes it.
I don't know. I just wonder if those kids, if those were all the offspring of Pretty Ricky. Long live Pretty Ricky and Spuds McKenzie. But yeah, the notion that Ben Johnson wasn't locked in or prepared for this game, or, you know, a trick play that was ill-advised is some sort of indictment on his ability to prepare and get ready for the Washington game. I think that's Looney Tunes. However, I do think going to the Chicago Bears does earn you the title, as he's already earned on Twitter, as Benedict Johnson.
That's fine.
That's
yeah.
a great nickname.
Yeah,
that we can lean into now.
He walked right into it.
Yeah,
he did, and it. I mean, good luck. Tip your cap to the guy. Yeah. Like,
look, the reason why I didn't want to talk much about what he's going to or not do at the Bears job is nobody knows what a head coaching, you know, this looks like the right move for them on paper, but I've seen plenty of other coaches around this league what looks like the slam dunk hire on paper that just like, look, Urban Meyer, Jacksonville. What happened? Like, there's been so many other things where the intelligentsia gets together and it just doesn't work out. I'm not saying it's not going to work out. I just refuse to start earmarking the future on this. I guess the only question I have is, where did all the Raiders stuff come from in the first place? And now I'm seeing Schultz starting to walk out that there was never a point where the Raiders were front runners for Ben Johnson, in spite of, Ryan, how much did we have to talk about that, Tom Brady's there to personally scout Ben Johnson himself?
Tom Brady is a hell of a drug, I think, is
He
what
is
we learned.
he is. Yeah. I don't know. I think Jeremy, I think you hit on all the points. It sucks, but it also feels like the Lions have kind of known this is going to happen for a while. I've got to imagine they've been prepared for it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about who the head coach of the Detroit Lions are, and not that they are dependent upon one singular offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Like, if you believe this team and the potential of this team, you look to the personnel and you look to the organization itself as far as that. And I think the Lions are going to sit there and say, look, the fundamentals are solid.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say on Ben Johnson, and this isn't hey, you need to respect the guy for what he accomplished here. No, like, if you're pissed off that he goes to the Bears, like, I'm not going to stop you.
You can be pissed off. It's football. Do what you want.
But I think the one thing that I won't accept is, like, the revisionist history of what he was here. And because, I mean, he had 3 full offensive coordinator years in Detroit. All 3 of them involved a top 5 scoring offense. This year it was top 1, and he could have left last year. He came back to make a Super Bowl run. And again, like, to suggest that he self-sabotaged or didn't take it serious in the last game he would coach as a Detroit Lions offensive coordinator is Looney Tunes, as Ryan put it, because, I mean, it was important for him to come back and try to do this one more time. It didn't work out, but he also doesn't owe the Lions anything. As much as I wish he wouldn't have gone to Chicago, and I'm sure everyone in that Lions organization is not thrilled that he went to Chicago, but Dan Campbell would have, like, if he ever, I don't know if this conversation happened or not, but I would bet that if Ben Johnson had been like, hey, if you say don't go to the Chicago Bears, I won't go to the Chicago Bears, I guarantee you Dan Campbell would said, go where you want.
Oh, yeah.
Like, go where you want, go what you think is going to be the best situation for you. And for him, he clearly thought that's going to be coaching Caleb Williams. I think the revisionist history is kind of a little bit coming, Jeremy, because of maybe some of the Ben Johnson tricks didn't work out so well against the Washington Commanders, and that's where we're going next. But first, listen, I know you've been everyone here, I understand you've been drowning your sorrows in after what happened on Saturday night. Why not drown them with meat? Because the Pride of Detroit podcast is brought to you by Righteous Felon Craft Jerky and Meat Sticks. It's the jerky that fuels the Pride of Detroit POD cast, and I have to do this read come hell or high water. God help us. We need to pay the bills and keep the lights on. Each 2-ounce bag of jerky has 16 to 20 grams of protein. Each stick has 8 grams. If it's good enough for us, it'll be good for you too. Trust me, because Righteous Felon is based in Westchester, Pennsylvania, using locally sourced all-natural Black Angus beef. They pride themselves on superior quality, revolutionary branding, and unique flavors that go beyond the stereotypical jerky offering. Unfortunately, one of those flavors is not sadness, or maybe that is a good thing. I don't think they offer their the beer infused one anymore. If you want to drown your sorrows, I think there is a bourbon whiskey flavor still. It's very good. Bourbon Franklin. It's very good stuff. Anyway, righteousfelon.com, promo code POD15 at checkout. Get 15% off your order. Promo code POD15 at righteousfelon.com. When we come back, it's time to talk about Saturday. Rip that Band-Aid off. Do a post-mortem on the body that has arrived on our slab. And then later on the show, we'll talk about what this all means. We're not going to get into a lot of roster stuff, I think, on this podcast. We're not going to blow everything on the first week of a long off season, but we will talk about what everything has meant and where the Lions go from here. That's all next on the Pride of Detroit PODcast. Hi, everyone.
Chat is flying today.
I know that was a lot of FTP to start. That was a wall.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to read any of the chat today because it's
We're
not
working
just
blue.
that there's a
We're
lot
working
of chat.
blue.
It's that everyone has 3 paragraphs they want to write about something. Which I get it. You have every right to be angry and pissed off right now. I'm not. I was telling Chris before we went live, like I was great this morning. I was feeling awesome. Yeah, I was throwing some barbs on Twitter, but it was kind of in fun. I had moved past Saturday night, and then, what was it, 30 minutes before we were about to go live? The Ben Johnson news hits. I'm like, I'm just trying to sit here and relax for 30 minutes and not think about the Lions and just chill, get in my calm zone here before the podcast, and then it's like, nope, you're getting slapped with, worst case scenario for Ben Johnson. It is.
I just, I don't know. I'm going to, now that we're out of being recorded and I can do my complete hater approach, which is that I'm going to have to go with Drew McGarry and multiple other people, including some Bears fans pointing it out. The Bears will still find a way to fuck this up. That's the one thing that'll keep me warm is my hater energy on that.
I can't play that card though when the same has been said about the Lions for 70 years and they turned it around.
I know, but we're not them anymore, so we can.
All right.
The only thing that I didn't really get a chance to say in the first segment was that, and it kind of was going to Chris's point about all the talent that was on the offense. It does really feel like this thing is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
We'll
get to that again on 3, but yeah.
Yeah. I know it was a small sample size. There's only a few plays, but Teddy Bridgewater came in and the Lions scored a touchdown. So
Teddy,
I don't know. I do feel like that there's so much talent that has been amassed on this offense. And the other point I wanted to make was, Jeremy mentioning one domino had to fall and then all these other jobs start falling into place because you're waiting on the the big game hunting to happen. Well, I think one thing that has prevented Hank Fraley from maybe making a decision is, well, now there's an offensive coordinator job available in Detroit. So a job that I interviewed for out in Seattle, and I have a bunch of offensive linemen in the locker room saying he doesn't get to go anywhere. He's staying here in Detroit. And they're even saying he knows his stuff. He could be an offensive coordinator, right? Could. That's their words, not mine. They're basically saying he could do this. So I don't know. It's not great that I kind of like that he went to the Bears though. In the sense that, hear me out, in the sense that that's just an awesome storyline. Go if you want to go prove that you're really the guy, go do it where you have to play the Lions twice a year.
Right. Or go prove it where there's never been a good quarterback ever.
There's never been a quarterback who's thrown for over 4,000 yards. It's interesting in the sense that this will make for entertaining television.
This is a very Chris narrative forward take that you're making here.
Well, let me add to this. Let me add to this too, because now let me add to the narrative, because now with everyone going nuts about Jaden Daniels on how he doesn't look like a rookie at all. He's doing VR training. He's a virtual soldier. He's already being included along with the elite quarterbacks of the NFL. He's already top 5 among quarterbacks, right now in the NFL. You've got Caleb Williams over there going into year 2, who is the surefire, can't miss, ready to go prospect in Chicago. You got to catch up some ground now. You got to the pressure's on you to be all right. Caleb might not have had the same position as Jaden Daniels, but I can show you he's a better quarterback. I can make him a better quarterback. How you like that?
I like chat that's calling this a Ted Lasso storyline, which I can kind of see. The assistant coach goes to the enemy team. I'd love it if there was some sort of redemption story where he comes back.
Well,
do you think Ben Johnson is ripping up the believe sign on the way out?
I still haven't seen Ted Lasso.
I need to know who Jared Goff is in this analogy.
Is he the guy who everyone thought was CGI?
Is that Roy or whatever?
Roy Kent?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is he Roy Kent or is he Jamie Tart?
The guy with the beard, with the black beard.
That's right.
Yeah, the CGI was Roy Kent. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of want to save this take for the podcast, though. But like we're already kind of getting into it.
Do you want me to like use what you just said? You want me to put that back into segment 1? I can do that.
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay,
I
sure.
just don't know. Like, I think
I don't like
a half an hour before this podcast started, I knew where this was going, and then the news happened, and now I don't know where we're going for the next hour. If we're even going to be, are we going to be done in an hour? I don't, probably not. Like, there's just so much to say and so much to unpack.
I do have to join Grand Rapids Radio at 8 p.m. and I am sure
I would hope that we could get off in the next 3 hours. So
Yeah.
Listen, man, I'm just sitting here dreading, like, are we actually going to be allowed to talk about the game at all, or is just another shoe about to drop?
Yeah.
There's still people arguing in the chat that Ben Johnson wasn't full in on Saturday, and
You can't prove, but like you can't prove anything like that.
We can't prove either way. But here's the deal: they won 2 playoff games last year when Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn had to interview during a game week. That's a real distraction, right? Like when you are pulling time that you would actually be spending game planning away so that you can have these interviews. That is a real distraction. That is something that I hate about the current head coaching system. And if you wanted to argue that last year, fine, sure.
Last year before the Rams game, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when it happened last year, right?
I believe
they were interviewing before the Rams game, which was arguably the biggest game in the Lions history before, getting to Saturday. But the other thing, I think a lot of people are pointing and seeing the headline that Cliff Kingsbury isn't taking any head coaching interviews until after the playoffs and being like, wonder if this is the way that a coordinator should really handle it. Or, maybe Cliff Kingsbury shouldn't draw any attention to himself and just keep all of his focus probably on Washington, where like he can't go end up as a head coach somewhere and flame out again.
Right.
Like he's already been.
He's not going to take a head coaching interview this year.
What's the market for Kingsbury? He's still got the Arizona stink on him.
I mean, and right now it's a one-hit wonder at this point, right? Like, I get that move, but we're at like year 3 of Ben. Like, is he gonna leave? And he's finally left. Like, this isn't like a Cliff Kingsbury. I've just been here for a cup of coffee, and I have Jane Daniels, and this is all great and awesome. Like, I don't think that shows any like unfocused energy from Ben Johnson by saying that Cliff Kingsbury isn't taking any coaching interviews. Like, Cliff Kingsbury shouldn't be taking any head coaching interviews.
I'm going to say more about this next segment, but Ben Johnson was far less bad than anyone is saying. He was fine
on Saturday. Jared Goff was the problem on Saturday.
Yes,
not Ben Johnson. The offensive line was the problem.
The problem also was, and again, I'm dipping into our segment too, but J-Mo, man, you just got to throw that ball away.
Yeah. All right. That's the one. Yeah, we'll get in. That's the one stink on Ben Johnson.
Correct.
But like,
but at that point, I felt like it was already like, okay, it's not feeling like this is working.
And even all of these things are just like setting aside the biggest problem, which we can get into too, right? Yeah.
But the mash unit defense finally came crashing down. Yeah.
But I think that's my overall point, is like nothing that I even saw on Saturday hinted to me that they were checked out. Consciously, unconsciously, anything. Like, the offense was rolling that game. It was rolling. And it was just the execution of 2 or 3 plays that turned that entire game. But anyways, we're saving that.
Can I say something, at least something positive the Lions had on Saturday? Because I don't think I'll be able to get to it in our segment.
Sure.
Because I feel like we'll just be dumping quite a bit out.
Christian Mahogany?
Him too.
Okay.
Him too. I actually watched Dune Part 2 on Sunday, and it cheered me up again.
Yeah.
So, no, it was, so, I do not usually like comparisons to Barry Sanders. However, there were a few Jahmyr Gibbs runs where immediately after he like somehow kicks a leg and misses a block and gets an extra 30 yards out of it, and then they would cut immediately to Barry Sanders on the sideline. There were points where I thought, yeah, that's appropriate. That's actually appropriate.
One of his runs
I hope he's so good next year.
Saturday may have been the best one I've seen him run. It was the double cut one where he cut outside first and then or maybe inside then outside, and just made two people look silly. And yeah, I mean, I think we are going to talk a little bit about Gibbs in the second half.
Okay, we'll save
segment.
it. We'll save it.
Not just the good things, the very strong narrative that the Lions went away from Jahmyr Gibbs, which I also have thoughts on, and if you follow me on Twitter, you've already seen them. So, all right, let me get to some alerts.
Oh boy.
Which actually there's not that many, which is fine. I imagine a lot got out on Saturday when you went live. I will say first off, Mugel, if you're watching, you are unbanned now. I just didn't want to deal with you last night. After a fucking year. I went through some unban requests and I unbanned like two people, and I was watching another streamer go through unban requests, and I think it's a very funny thing to do, and I probably should have done it on stream because it's
amnesty.
The best thing about it is like the people who got banned, who their reasoning is always like, it's very angry. It's like, I don't know why I got banned. You guys are a bunch of soft assholes. It's like, was this really an unban request? do you understand what a request is?
It's a way to get a final. It's a way to get a final word off, and that's about it.
Oh, you want to get a ban request?
I get that a lot on Discord. I get that a lot on Discord. It's not even on a ban. It's like an hour timeout, and then someone immediately goes to a homophobic slur on me, and I'm like, all right, cool.
You've just. That's the thing. It happens all the time in Pride of Detroit too. I don't even like. I'm not even a moderator on Pride of Detroit anymore. But of course, anytime someone gets banned, I'm the first one that they email, and it's like, and like every single message that's like, you guys are a bunch of fascists and censorship and it's just like, you do realize you are making me agree more and more with this decision, right?
Yeah, you are just reinforcing my decision to kick your ass.
Anyways, real quick, I've seen a couple political stuff in the comment section. Let's cut that shit out. Just either, I don't care what side you're on or who you're saying, like, let's just not throw that big Molotov into the chat today when everyone's already
don't we have enough to talk about?
Yeah, we're all emotionally charged enough over the 48 hours.
Are people really yeah, let's try to keep it clean.
I'm just trying to cut it off at the pass.
Yeah, let's try to keep it lean. I understand people are frustrated about Ohio State and Notre Dame tonight, but let's leave the Catholics versus the Protestants over here. No, bad joke. Okay, never mind. Just get to the alerts.
Sorry,
I tried.
I was sending a text. I'm sorry. I heard something about Protestant and Catholics, and I'm like, yeah, that's where Chris took it.
RGA, thank you for the 100 bits. Says Montreal screw job. I'm assuming that's a Ben Johnson intentionally blowing the game thing. Is that what that is?
I immediately went to Triple H turning on Shawn Michaels when he came back in 2002. I just posted that GIF without any explanation because I think that's pretty. I mean, that's pretty fair. Like, you think everything's going well, and then boom, sabotage.
That's right. The Choco Bobrovskit Bowl 2 bits says, seeing Ben Johnson going to the Bears is like watching my dog stiffen another dog's butt. Awkward, a little gross, and totally unnecessary. Dude, there are other head coaching opportunities. Get out of our division. Yeah, it's a fair take. 5 bits from Jack Churchill. Just throws in a bunch of FTBs in the chat. Says anywhere but Chicago. 30 bits from RGA. Says Adam Rank tweet, we're going to the Super Bowl. Oh boy.
Oh, perfect. See, this is why I kind of love it though.
No.
Now you're going to get all these Bear fans who did the same exact thing with Caleb Williams last offseason. They got Caleb Williams and they talked about they could be sneaky in the playoffs.
Yeah, they were the Bears cycle, man.
Plus 100 to not make the playoffs this year. How many football games did they win?
Best situation for a rookie quarterback, Ryan.
Ever.
Roma Dunze is going to be great. How many catches does Roma Dunze have this year?
The best situation for an offensive coordinator to become a head coach is to go into this spot where everything's everything's ready at the hand. You have the quarterback, you have the receivers. Yet now
Every
go do
fucking
it.
year, every fucking year, like clockwork in Chicago. I love it.
But I
I
want to
love it.
make. This is the point I wanted to make, and be clear is that it's not just Ben Johnson with that pressure on them. Now it's Jared Goff. Now you have to go do it. You have to do it without Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell. Now you have to go do it without Ben Johnson.
Yep.
Like there's
Ben
pressure
Johnson. Now you have to
all
do it
over the
without
place.
Dan Campbell too.
Yes, it all works both ways. I'm just saying that I think that there's more in the chamber here than there is in Chicago.
Well, no doubt. I mean, the offensive line is the engine under the hood, as everyone says, and that's not going anywhere. But I don't know. It's just
Speaking of something he does not have in Chicago, by the way.
this feels like if we're living in an Xbox game, this is like new anxiety unlocked. A Detroit Lions coach becoming a stellar head coach elsewhere. Like that's not something we've ever had to see. That's not something we've ever had to deal with. If that all that happens in the freaking division, it's just like, what? Like, when is the last time the Detroit Lions propped up a coach and he became the next whatever? Like that's
Yeah. We talked about the Dan Campbell tree might be happening.
right. Well, can it happen in the AFC? Go over there. Leave us alone.
Well, it sounds like it'll be. I mean, we'll see where Aaron Glenn goes. I think. I'm curious how the dominoes fall from here. I guess is where I'm going, and I am also curious what happens now with the Cowboys, who have played this in a tremendously hilarious faction, as the Cowboys always do. And I do not think they're going to be patient enough. Jerry Jones is going to be patient enough to wait for Kellen Moore to become available.
Dude, I think that's it. I think
Back to Dallas.
it's going to be a big offseason for tangentially related Lions people in head coaching positions.
Here's the thing: I know Jerry likes headlines, and he's because I saw, what was the new name? Brian Schottenheimer. I saw was the new name now, who also passed through Dallas. And once again, I feel like if the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, Jerry's not going to be able to wait until mid February for that.
What if it's Cliff Kingsbury?
What if it is Cliff Kingsbury?
How nervous would Washington Commanders fans be of their offensive coordinator going to be a head coach in the division?
I don't think I'm going to get to Kingsbury, but I will give. Can I just say I was completely wrong about Kingsbury? I had just kind of pinned this as okay, this is just a college offense kind of thing, and boy, no, it wasn't on Saturday. No, it was not. I might have that was. I wasn't talking a lot of shit about Jaden Daniels, but I do feel like I was talking some shit about Cliff Kingsbury, and I have to owe up to that.
Yeah, I mean, he did get to play like a college defense, so.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of comparisons to that game to a Big 12 matchup.
I know there's a lot of talk about who's going to get question of the day tomorrow, but maybe I should just write it. Whichever team wins the national championship tonight, could the Ohio State Buckeyes score points on the Detroit?
Wow, Jeremy, you dictator!
Unmute me now. That article headline would do numbers.
It'd be the last article you wrote.
Thank God.
All right, let me get to the rest of the alerts here. There's not many, so we can blow through them here quick. Madrigal, thank you for the 100 bits. Says, any idea when we hear who Ben Johnson is taking with him? If you did miss that, he is making Dennis Allen his defensive coordinator, which is notable, certainly, because he feels like he was a potential Aaron Glenn replacement if the Lions were interested. No word on offensive staff yet, but I would imagine a lot of that stuff is going to happen relatively quickly. I mean, offensive coordinator I would expect to happen somewhat quickly. I don't know. Everyone kind of works at their own pace. Obviously, Ben Johnson has said that he wants to play calls wherever he goes, call plays wherever he wants to go. So whatever offensive coordinator he's taking with him, it's going to have to understand that. And that's why I always thought Hank Fraley might make a little bit of sense, because I'm not sure he's ready to call plays. But at the same time, if Hank Fraley wants a real promotion, is that a real promotion? Being out, what are you going to do that's different? He's already pretty involved in game planning. He's already pretty involved in schematic stuff. mean, the Lions' offensive linemen have kind of said that already.
Office upgrade.
His best chance to call plays might be here.
Nice shiny office.
About Teddy Bridgewater.
He doesn't want to be an NFL coach.
Not an offensive coordinator?
He doesn't want to be no, he doesn't. He doesn't. He wants sleep, in his words. And
wants sleep?
Yeah. NFL coaches don't sleep. It's a terrible life to live. I would never want it in my life. You could make me the highest paid offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach. I would not take that job. Absolutely not.
What's so different than the life you live now?
I was going to say, I can't handle 7 primetime games in a season without losing my mind. Absolutely not. RGA 50-bit says, seriously, did him and Dan have a fallout to go to the Bears? Is just messed up. Nah. Just thought it was the best opportunity. I get it. I do think the Bears roster is not that far off. I do. I didn't know if that was what to me, I thought he was going to prefer organizational stability, or at least organizational control. That to me is where the biggest question mark is with Chicago. So that's why I was a little caught off guard. I thought not, getting an arranged marriage with your general manager, dealing with the McCoskies who have made odd decisions at times, carried themselves in weird, some would say unprofessional ways at times. That's what I thought would deter him from going to Chicago.
Yeah.
But young quarterback with mobility, some weapons on offense, pretty good defensive roster. I'm not saying they're going to win the division next year. I don't think they are. I don't think they're going to come that close to winning the division, but they could sneak in the playoffs and maybe make a run at the division in 2026.
I guess the only reason I gave Jacksonville a chance in this was that maybe it was they kept bulky. Maybe it was that. Maybe that's what killed it. Hard to tell. But I do think, if it wasn't Jacksonville, Chicago was the only other real option there.
I get.
I don't think you're going to get better. I don't think you were going to get a better choice.
Yeah, I bought it. I'll be honest. I bought into the Raiders stuff because
I did too.
I thought as soon as they fired their general manager, I'm like, oh, they're clearing the way for this guy.
But again, can they even draft for a quarterback? Where they are.
I mean, that it's a totally fair question. Their quarterback situation was the biggest question mark. But I thought when Brady was making the hard push, Brady would understand that he'd have a pretty long leash, which I think would be important to Ben Johnson, considering he keeps talking about getting a second contract there. At least he talked about once about getting a second contract to wherever he goes next. And so just being able to have that long runway of building a way that you want to, because that's the thing. He saw how it happened in Detroit. It did not happen overnight. It was not a Dan Campbell came in and boom, it was fixed. It was a long, detailed, methodical process, and that's kind of how I thought he was going to go about it. But now it seems like, I'm not saying he's going to go the quick fix route, because that's not going to work either in Chicago. But it's definitely Chicago is in a better spot than when Dan Campbell took over the Lions.
No, for sure, and I think he will get at least some patience. I think we lose track of it just because the Bears have gone through quite a few head coaches, but the McCaskies are one of those families that is conservative. It was funny to see Eberflus fired mid-season, but that was the first time they've ever fired a coach mid-season, very famously. And I'm sure that he's going. The real question is again going to be how many shanks are Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren pull out on each other the minute something goes wrong. I think that's ultimately and still will continue to be the real question in Chicago, no matter what. That's ultimately the one red flag about that job. Maybe another red flag on the offensive line right now, and if that can be fixed up there. But yeah,
if I'm reading the tea leaves, though, I feel like I'm absolutely not going to get Aaron Glenn's destination wrong, because I think that's the New York Jets.
I believe so too.
Not the Saints.
I don't think the Saints
I think
it's one of those two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
it's
it's
Jets.
really interesting that Lance Newmark got his second interview with the Jets.
Sure.
I do think also with Chicago off the board, I do think Mike McCarthy is very appealing to the Saints right now. For
Why couldn't
about
he have picked my Bears gone with him? That would have been the funniest timeline.
it would have been funny, but also McCarthy's won a lot of games. Like ultimately, at the end of the day, like I
Yeah,
don't think he's a bad coach. You can do a lot worse, but ultimately, I think when it comes to me, Ryan, where I'm with you on the Jets is like his playing career is there. Most of his coaching career so far had been with the Saints, but
Yeah.
like he only played a year with the Saints.
hmm
And ultimately, at the end of the day, the Saints' main problem is once again this cap hell, and Mickey Loomis is going to remain there. Just going to remain there because he's in the will of the ownership. Like then Mickey's going to get a chance to patch up all of that. And I think Aaron Glenn is the kind of like culture guy you want for the whatever is left of the Aaron Rodgers era and whatever comes next. Like that sounds like a hell of a good fit.
yeah.
All right.
Segment two.
I still got one more alert. I thought there was
Okay.
another one I saw. It's not showing up.
We also have a list cast request we can hit out really fun. It's a funny one, but
I almost want to take that channel point one off. It seems to distract us and make things go a lot longer when we do a list cast. We'll honor it. Don't get me wrong.
I can save it for next break. Someone also requested a Macho Man Randy Savage one, but I think yeah.
When? It's not on the request queue.
Oh, it was way back. Did someone like reject it? I thought I saw it.
Probably. Okay, yeah.
It was
it's
like
not
this.
even showing all of them.
It showed only visible to me, so now I can't find it.
Yeah, I see the queue of reward requests and it's not there.
Hmm.
All right, for some reason, my events, I may have missed a few, so let me go back real quick. Sorry.
You want me to do some or?
No, I got it. I just have to find the. Yeah, there's a lot that aren't on my list. That's so weird. Okay. Archerino, thank you for the 22 month subscribe channel. Says fuck the Bears. Matt Sick, thank you for the 28 months as well. Michael T. Dunn, 43 months, says we're here. I'm speechless too, Jeremy. Yeah. JP is me, 27 months, says Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, two guys that I like that I am now forced to hate. Yeah, I think a lot of people saw Caleb on the Amon Rob podcast and liked him more than they thought they were going to like him.
He's a good man, guy. He's a good guy. Like, I don't know what to say.
Flair, 49 months at tier 2, says Payne, first off season I haven't felt optimistic in a while. Thankful for 15-2 and for you guys to talk us through it. Miko, 36 months, says Ben Johnson is a big fat poopy head. Am I doing this right? Definitely. Chaos Cam, thank you for the 12 months, says Brandon Staley as DC coming soon. Don't threaten me with a good time. I'm always going to believe in Brandon Staley, even though I was 1,000% wrong about him as a head coach.
I can respect that. Because of Malik Willis. Maybe it'll turn
right.
around for you someday, like it did for me.
Oh yeah, you're claiming victory on that now.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Karen, they give the 29 months, says Ben, not the Bears, FTB. Robo, 38 months, says terrible couple days. Why Ben? And then Phenoms Wow, 13 months, says so many times when a franchise has a window, their quote best team doesn't win the title, but the franchise eventually wins one. In that window, see 07 Pats, 13 Denver Broncos, 2005 Colts. Stings now, but this Lions core isn't done yet. Yeah, I think I saw some people point to the Red Wings too a little bit. Those early years where they getting bounced in the first round eventually led to them winning Stanley Cup. I get that.
What was I also kind of reject the idea of window sometimes too. I think it is something that is a lot of times narrative driven. Because ultimately, like, it was supposed to be the F them picks, the go all out, win that one Super Bowl, and the Rams were still competing. I don't think the Eagles window has been closed, or I don't know. I feel like it's just you keep winning as long as you can keep winning. And that's ultimately the
I'm not sure if you saw this on the broadcast, Chris, but Tom Brady talked about Windows and
Tom Brady talked about a lot of things.
well, he didn't talk about Ben Johnson. But
Did he not?
Yeah, no, he didn't mention Ben Johnson's name on the broadcast.
Interesting.
Awful announcing had the article on that, but anyway, so no, so Tom Brady was talking about how like almost like at the end of every season the window closes because it's like, and it kind of goes to what Dan Campbell said after the NFC Championship game last year, right? Where it's like it's so incredibly difficult to climb the mountain. Like you're starting over, and that's what Tom Brady was saying was like you're starting over essentially from scratch. Like the next year, like you have to like get yourself back up to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I do think that there's just too much talent here at this point, right? And like,
Yeah.
as long as you keep bringing the talent, because I think that's something that's not really getting talked about a whole lot is how coveted a job it might be to be the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. How coveted it might be to be the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions when you have a healthy Aiden Hutchinson and hopefully Aleem McNeil can get healthy in time and maybe you add more pieces to that defense. So, I don't know.
This is still a loaded roster at the end of the day.
With more draft picks. And money to spend in free agency should they so choose to do so.
True.
And you know, I think one of the big things I had a question was for the next season, Brian, was a lot of like, well, what's going to happen with the interior of the defense of the offensive line, and looks like they might have someone in mahogany.
Yeah.
Careful, let's not burn all of our segment 3.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, let's get back to it. I'm just looking up. I'm trying to find a. Okay, there it is. I needed my dueling stats about how bad the defense was. So, Choco. Where would I put that? Chocobo Brisket Bowl. We will get to your list cast maybe in the next break.
Oh yeah, I didn't see what it was, but yeah,
it's something silly. Okay. Top 5 additional things to go wrong in the next week. So let's talk about the game first.
Okay. Let's talk about something that already went wrong.
Pride to Detroit PODcast. All right. Assuming nothing else, another meteor doesn't crash into us while we're recording this. Let's talk about Saturday. Let's talk about how the Lions season ended. Not the way that Lions fans hoped. Something of a morgue game, I will call it. I'm stealing that one from my friend Jonas Knox because there were definitely some looks in that stadium about halfway through where it kind of felt like the old ghosts were just hackling on people's souls a little bit. And I'm not one to believe it's all over, but you ran into a team that was playing the best football that they could possibly play, playing absolutely zero mistakes. And you had mistakes on your side too. And you were once again weighed down by a very key injury to start that game. And maybe Amik Robertson was the straw that broke the camel's back on the defense, or maybe it was just higher in the playoffs and you could not avoid it anytime soon. And maybe part of it was that there was definitely a lot of people feeling going into this game where Jaden Daniels was a good story, but he wasn't really that quarterback. And they proved otherwise to you. Boy, did they prove otherwise. But I do think there were certain mistakes on the Detroit Lions. Because we are a Detroit Lions podcast, we do have to talk about what the Lions did and did not do in that game, more than we talk about what the Commanders did do. I'm sure we'll give them some credit. But Jeremy, I know there's a lot of people looking around for blame on the Lions right now. And I don't have the breakdown of blame of percentages. I But I feel like there are a couple of good reasons to talk about why the Lions lost that game. There's some reasons that are just not useful about talking about it, like we talked about, like Ben Johnson being courted for all these positions was not the reason why the offense looked the way it did.
Yeah.
But I I where do you want to start? Where do you want to start? Because I either want to go to Jared Goff or I want to talk about the defense.
Yeah, let's talk about Jared Goff in a second here, but I think it's also just worth talking about how much of a gut punch this is. Like,
Yes.
let's not overlook how just terrible this still feels in some way. I do like to think that I'm a little bit over it at this point because we're recording on a Monday night, 48-ish hours after the game, but this was a 15-2 team. This was a team with the best offense in football that could hang with anybody on an average day, no matter how bad the defense was playing. Dan Campbell comes up in his press conference today and says, hey, if we would have just played B, not an A-level game, not A minus, not B plus, a B-level game, we probably win that football game. And I believe him. I agree with him. And it's a squandered opportunity. Without a doubt, this was a top 3 team in the NFL, and they didn't make it to a conference championship game. That is devastating. Devastating. I'm not going to try to, if we can look into the future, and yes, there's still hope there, but let's live in the present right now. That was devastating. It was devastating to see the offense play good on 90% of the snaps and absolutely blow it in the other 10% of the snaps. It was devastating to see any sort of hope that we had that the defense had maybe turned a corner last game against the Vikings to say, nope, they're still as bad as they've been for the past 2 months. And it's hard for me to just move past that and be like, all right, well, they're going to be fine in the future. They blew an opportunity here.
Yeah.
They're a better team than the Commanders. I will go to my grave. Even with the defensive roster as it is, they are a better team than the Washington Commanders, and they didn't prove it when they had everything in front of them.
I believe I saw last night, some night, Ryan, on ESPN about the record of teams that had won 15 games in the NFL. And I'm not sure why it all comes up short. It is tough. It is a long road through football, and it's just some of it's just the cruelty of the playoffs itself. I believe I also saw from the weekend that every team who turned the ball over at all lost. It just kind of shows you the kind of stakes you're talking about when you are in playoffs, that little mistakes that's enough to sink your entire season. Just ask the Ravens today. That ball's off Mark Andrews' hands.
Those were the stakes going all the way back to week 15 when the Lions played the Bills. And we had this exact same discussion about this offense will have to be perfect from here on out in order for it to keep winning football games. And the week after that, they did it against the Bears, and then they did it against the 49ers, and then they did it against the Vikings. And it did really feel like this house of cards was going to come tumbling down eventually, because I agree with Jeremy that I think the Detroit Lions football team is a better football team than the Washington Commanders. On Saturday night, they were not. The Washington Commanders had their number in every which way. They ran the ball on them effectively. Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler were running the football well. They did a surprisingly good job on keeping Jaden Daniels pretty corralled. He ran for 51 yards. He had a long of 15, and he ran the ball 16 times.
Right.
He ran.
Like 3-1 a carry or something. Yeah.
Yeah. 3-1 a carry or 3-2 a carry. And then if we want to play our favorite game, but I'll leave that to the side, because my overall point was that I didn't feel like there was any doubt that the better football team that night won that football game. I thought the Washington Commanders played an incredible game of football, and the Detroit Lions did not. And that's the unfortunate reality of one and done, and you lose a game and you're done. And that it's just the unfortunate circumstances. And that's why it feels weird to kind of place all the blame at Ben Johnson's feet for like not being prepared, as we talked about in the first segment, or even in the break a little bit. Or, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like I was prepared for this weeks ago. Like,
Yeah.
not that they were going to lose to the Commanders. I definitely thought that they would win the football game, but I think that last year's NFC Championship game felt way more devastating and way more deflating and way more defeating in the sense that the Lions had a lead at halftime. And there was a play here and a play there that totally squandered their opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl. I don't think that there was just a play here and a play there in the Commanders game, because it seemed like at each big moment it was too many men on the field, or I mean, the Commanders gifted them a possession at the very beginning by letting Marcus Mariota touch the football. on what earth should Dan Quinn ever allow Marcus Mariota to touch the football in a divisional round game?
Probably the same one that has Jameson Williams throwing a football.
But also, like,
my goodness.
Listen, but like, look, the Lions had to do the same thing. Teddy Bridgewater has to come in because Jared Goff's getting checked for concussion, and that works. But I think to your point, Ryan, like, yeah, like, I feel like the Lions had these like mistakes that really like that felt a lot more cursed how they lost the NFC Championship. This felt like their quarterback was on fire, hot at the right time. And Jared Goff, and like maybe we glossed over this a little bit too much in that Jared Goff had been throwing picks down the stretch here. Like, I didn't think he looked good in the 49ers game. He kind of looked, you know, he had a couple, you know, issues turning the ball over against the Vikings. And what really kind of upset me was the decision, like, the pick six is one thing, but it was more for me, it was the decision right before the half. Because you remember, they come out of the half and then they force a 3 and out on Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you had scored before the half, that could have easily been, all right, great. We have a chance to, like, you know, to get back in front of this mess. And instead, that ball kind of gets forced deep. And again, this is maybe part to your point, Ryan, about the Commanders playing a great game, because their corners were draped all over the Lions defenders and gave them nothing. And Sanger still comes up with that ball. And suddenly a chance to score. I thought they had enough time to where they probably scored 6. Not a field goal, 6 before the half. And that opportunity goes completely away because you try to force that ball to the end zone.
Yeah, I just think about all the big moments in that game, and for the most part, it was always coming up Commanders. It was always coming up Commanders at big moments, whether it was fourth downs or, you know, Jane Daniels just putting a ball where it exactly had to be. And I will say I was reminded, though, that there was one person during our live show who said that Jared Goff would be the reason why the Detroit Lions didn't win the Super Bowl, and I got booed at the Magic Stick Theater. But kind of happened on Saturday.
Yeah.
You're gonna do your victory lap now, huh?
Well, but aside from the defense, does it feel like this was Jared Goff's fault, right? Like, not like a mixture of Jared Goff and the offensive line.
Sure. Yeah.
I just don't think he played his best game, and that's part of
the
Lions need to play perfect, Jeremy.
Yeah. But I want to disagree on 2 things. One, this one hurt more to me than last year. Like, not even a question.
Wow.
To me, they were ahead of schedule last year. Anything would have been gravy
house
on
money
top.
Gravy, huh?
Yeah, no question.
I didn't buy into the house money, but sure, yeah. It's go on.
This year, again, they were the better team. I think you can make an argument the 49ers were the better team overall. They certainly weren't in the first half. They were in the second half. I'm so, like, and I do think this game could have turned on 2 plays. I do think, and I mean, they're easy to highlight. It's the ones we've been talking about for the past 48 hours. It's the 3rd and 1 when you're up 7-3 in the red zone. It's the interception at the end of the half.
Yeah, empty backfield on that 3rd and 1 too.
I want to talk about that. We'll get into that. I want to talk about a lot of things with the offense, to be quite honest, and it probably is too much to talk about in one segment. But it's the JMO play, and it's the 4th and 2, too many men. Like, you had opportunities to flip those, and on a normal day, they do. When's the last time this team has been penalized for too many men? When's the last time they had two safeties that haven't played a single defensive snap on the field, confused, and most likely at fault for the too many men? How many times all right, let's get to the offense. I'm losing my focus here. Let's get to the offense. Get to the 3rd and 1. Let's get to the JMO play. 3rd and 1. People are pissed off about it. I get it. I'm not that concerned about the play call. To me, 3rd and 1 to this Lions offense is very much like a 2nd and 1. And what does everyone want to do on a 2nd and 1?
They want to take a shot, push the ball down the field.
Exactly.
Especially when you get your matchup that you wanted, right?
Yes, and that's exactly what they had. They had everything that they wanted. They had Amon-Ra against Bobby Wagner. They knew they were in man. It's an extremely low-risk play, and I know that sounds crazy considering what happened, but it's a 3-step drop throw. And everything went wrong that could go wrong on it. Amon-Ra falls down, Graham Glasgow blows his block, and Jared Goff doesn't protect the football. In what should be a bang-bang play, should be easy money for the Lions, didn't work out. Now you can say, hey, just keep David Montgomery in the backfield. Can you just do that, just so that they think they might run the ball? Doesn't matter on that play. Wouldn't have mattered on that play. It wouldn't have.
Yeah, I don't even think going to Montgomery was a, I'm not going to fault them for trying to run him out there, getting his legs back up. He wasn't effective in the game, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't change Amon-Ra St. Brown slipping.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't change the outcome of the play at all.
The ball's going that way anyways. That's the matchup that they're trying to exploit, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
Dan Campbell's already come out and said, I wouldn't have changed that. I thought that was the right play call. I would have called it again, or I would have been okay with it being called again. They were going to go for it on 4th and 1 if they didn't get. I mean, the long and short of it is Jared Goff probably should have turfed it as soon as he saw Amon-Ra on the floor. Probably should have turfed it, and he probably would have if he had time to. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at the end of the day, though, like what we're going to get to next is that I think the mistakes, aside from the JMO play, like I want to talk about the interception before the half that Chris talked about. I want to talk about the interception, the overthrow on Tim Patrick where Jared Goff gets rocked. Like those were Jared Goff mistakes. Like they were underthrown balls. Like I get maybe if you want to say that JMO can come back to the ball a little bit on the play before the half. I get, but Saints ran the route for him and he underthrew the ball. Like it's just not. It's not a place where you needed to get all those yards quickly, right? Why did you want to give the ball back to Washington with any bit of time where they could maybe have went and put points on the board, right?
And he did that a lot in this game, which is very uncharacteristic of him. He is a guy that checks down, takes what the defense gives him, and that is his superpower. He's usually very, very good at it. And to me, it felt like he felt pressure from the defense. He felt that the defense was not going to get a stop, so he had to go out there and make a play. And that is everything Jared Goff is not, which is why it was shocking, which is why it's frustrating, which is why I do not lose faith in him in the future because of this football game. That is not how he plays.
To be clear, I'm not throwing Jared Goff under the bus for the future. I'm not doing this thing that everyone's worrying that he's going to pumpkin or we're back once again to like where the Rams were with Jared Goff, that he's that's silly. That's stupid. But like there was definitely I watched what the Commanders were doing, which was controlling possession, grinding out these drives. Like, and I think what made me upset about the long shots that you're talking about, Ryan, where he's got some underthrown balls, is like, it's again, like, we knew once again, this is kind of a place where you weren't allowed to shouldn't be taking mistakes. And it just felt like there was no, I think you're right. There was no need to force it at that moment. Yeah. Keep their offense off the field, grind out your drives, let Jahmyr Gibbs touch it a few more times, because damn, he was getting loose. But they took some risks, and I'm just not happy with some of the risks that were taken because the stakes are that much higher.
Well, the stakes were so high that it was a high wire act from Goff. And that's why, yes, like he deserves his share of the blame for what happened. But talk about being in the toughest spot where I didn't really give that too much thought, Jeremy, but the sense that Jared Goff can get rattled when he probably starts to think a little bit too much. I have to do everything because the defense isn't going to do anything for us wasn't the right way to probably think about the game at that point. Like in those moments where you feel like you have to score and you have to score now and you have to keep pace, that isn't where the Detroit Lions needed to be. They could have controlled the game a lot more with taking little checkdowns and dinking and dunking and doing what they're famously so good for. But there were just moments that didn't allow them to do that.
Right. And I think
Like
that's
you get behind the way that they did, right? Like that's when, okay, now I feel like I have this pressure to push it
right.
and try to score more than 6 points on a play that you can't do. You know what I mean? Like,
but and the problem is this wasn't like a philosophical problem the Lions had in this game. It was just moments of weakness, moments of stupidity. Because you look at their overall performance, 7.7 yards per play in this game. You know who had more than that in the divisional round? Nobody, including the Washington Commanders, who were 6.6. They were averaging 1 yard less. They were torching the Lions defense and were still 1 yard less per play than what the Lions were doing. The Lions had a 57.6 success rate on Saturday night. You know who in the divisional round had better than that? Nobody. On a down-to-down basis, this Lions offense was controlling the game from first quarter to fourth quarter, but these individual plays, these individual moments of weakness, these idiotic plays or decisions or just bad luck of falling down doomed them. And that to me is what's so hard to swallow, is they had that game. They did. I know it doesn't seem like it, but if that third and one goes differently, whether it's a different play call or Amon-Ra keeps his feet or Graham keeps his block, they take control of that game. They go down and score. It's 14-3, and everything else could play out completely differently from there. And that's what's hard. That's what, for me, what makes this one hard to take.
And I think there was multiple chances. Like I'm focusing on the one before, you're focusing on the third and one. I'm focusing on the play before the half. Like there's multiple chances where you could have reestablished control, and you let it slip away instead. Do we have a little bit of time to talk about the defense?
Sure. Yeah.
This is where I'm going to be a little frustrated with stuff, because I understand there is a subset of fans that just for whatever, like they are not happy about Aaron Glenn. They will never be happy about Aaron Glenn. And to them, the best thing that can happen is Aaron Glenn gets a head coaching job in this cycle. I will never be able to convince you about this. Like I understand that. I understand that I'm never going to be able to convince you about this, about that, that this your hatred of Aaron Glenn is beyond misplaced. But let me just rattle up a couple things here, because I really think the Lions defense was in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation even before. And Amik Robertson, goes out on what was it, the third play of the
second
defensive play of the game. And that's like your like that was probably who you had to put on Terry McLaurin or on De'Ami Brown, and suddenly you had both of them running like nonstop, like going nonstop. And I misplaced one of my two stats, and now I'm like scrambling around here trying to find it right now. But like, first off, there was not a single blitz play that Detroit sent at Jaden Daniels last night when passing that resulted in a negative play. That's the first one. And I'm trying to find the other one again, but okay, I found it. I'm sorry. Detroit sent a 4-man rush on 46% of dropbacks and got 0 pressures. They give them credit on how they handled the regular season. But man, this felt like the Bills game again, where you just don't have the damn horses on the field to run this kind of stuff. Like, so what you've been blitzing to cover up the fact that you cannot get pressure with a 4-man rush with the personnel you have out there. But if you blitz, he beats your ass. Jaden Daniels beats your ass, and he makes it look really good and identifies it immediately. And meanwhile, you're getting a 12 men on the field penalty because this is the first time I think Maurice Norris is suddenly lining up for the Detroit Lions, and everyone's confused about who's supposed to come in or out. Like, I think we could have put any defensive coordinator back there. And with the kind of personnel the Lions had left on this roster to end this season, they wouldn't have gotten anything.
No, the
like,
problem...
when you're down to Trevor Nowaski, Ryan, it's really hard to have something here.
Well, to the stats that you just pointed out, the thing that kind of blew our minds going into this game was the numbers about the Lions since week 11. Their pressure rate when they were rushing 4 or fewer was first in the NFL at 39.3%. And their overall pressure rate at 38.9% was second in the NFL. They could get pressure by sending 4 or fewer players. And that didn't happen at all on Saturday whatsoever. So it felt like Glenn had to pivot a little bit and start sending more pressure. And when he did send pressure, Jane Daniels did a masterful job of taking advantage with a dink and dunk play to Austin Eckler here, or, oh, you know what? I'm going to hit Terry McLaurin on this hot route because I see that Brian Branch is blitzing. So that's going to end up in a touchdown.
Zach Ertz, 5 targets, 5 receptions, man. He's
Zach,
got an AARP card out there, and he was still perfect.
Zach Ertz so clearly was shaking the cobwebs after he took that one hit, and I could not believe that he was still in the game. And then they took him out. That guy was like stumbling around, like he didn't know if he was at Ford Field or if he was somewhere else. But I think this is what I realized though after the Bills game, after losing Ali McNeil, after losing Carlton Davis. We were talking about Amik Robertson, the guy who was fighting for the nickel cornerback position coming into training camp with Emmanuel Mosley, was the most trusted number 1 corner on the team. And he gets injured 2 plays into the game. It felt so very like, oh, this is what the season has been building towards. And I think that even if the Lions would have beat the Commanders,
I know. Yes. I've had this thought too. Yes.
This was going to happen at some point. Like this defense could not have kept doing this. There's no way. They lost too much talent. And Jeremy, at the end of the day, we talk about it all the time. This is a talent-driven league.
Yeah.
That's why the Lions are so good, and that's why the Lions defense was so bad on Saturday.
Yeah. I think we all clung to hope that Week 18 game against the Vikings was, hey, Alex Anzalone, he fixed everything.
Yeah.
And I think the wild card game was kind of hinting like, no, I think Minnesota might just be falling apart.
Russ Tucker had us believing it, Jeremy.
Now to give some credit to the Rams, they have a really good defensive front, and they caused a lot of problems. But like, listen, there was reason to believe it at least a little bit that Aaron Glenn could scheme up some pressure, that he could figure ways to cover up their talent deficiencies. But if we want to take an objective look at this defense, they've been terrible for 2 months. Terrible. Not just bad, terrible. And it's hard not to draw the line and say, oh, look, they had all these guys before, and they were pretty good, maybe even great. They lost all those guys, and then they immediately got really, really bad. And not say, well, I think talent had something to do with it. Do I think this was Aaron Glenn's best game? No. But I think Chris highlighted it pretty well, too. It was damned if you do, damned if you don't when it came to sending pressure. And the Lions sent a lot of pressure, and it didn't work because Daniels is a very good quarterback against pressure. And when you didn't send pressure, when you try to rush 4, you didn't get pressure, maybe you were a little bit better on the back end still, because again, like if you're sending 4, this team isn't trying to disrupt Jaden Daniels as much as they are trying to surround him. Maybe more of that would have worked in hindsight, but at the same time, Aaron Glenn, for all of his, for better or for worse, was never just going to sit on his hands in this game and just say, beat us dropping 8, beat us dropping 7. Like that's not who he is. That doesn't necessarily play to Lions' strength either.
And he especially could do that after Amik Robertson gets injured.
Right.
Yeah,
and putting that additional stress on your secondary and then later in the game loses Melifonwu and Brian Branch. It's just,
then you want to play zone? Come on.
He doesn't just have both hands tied behind his back at that point. He's got maybe both legs at that point.
He's hog-tied at that point.
Like I had to point out, Bill Barnwell is the one who, after Brian Branch got hurt, went through and crossed through all the Lions players, and even his Lad's depth chart had number 40 being Brandon Joseph.
Right, who's not with the team anymore.
That was Maurice Norris on the field, right? There were people who were saying that it was Brandon Joseph because that's where we were at.
Yeah. Stanley Thomas
night.
Oliver.
STO, baby.
It's just funny because I just don't think it was like we didn't really see too much of him. I mean, I know he had 50 yards on the ground, but like there wasn't a ton of like Jaden Daniels, the mobile quarterback, absolutely torching the Lions, Ryan. It was just he adjusted. There was the one play where I think the linebackers took the exact wrong way on the end around on like a he ran to the edge, but like besides that play, like Jaden Daniels beat you with his arm. And that offensive line stood tall. And they allowed, what, 77 yards to Brian Robinson. Like, that's, they just wore you down. I didn't even see what the time of possession stat is, too, but like, those were long, 34 minutes time of possession. Those were long, grinding drives the entire night.
There was that like 9-minute drive in the second half that was like, this game's over.
Right.
It reminded me of the Lions last year who would do this to people. Or even this year where you'd put together these 9-minute drives. They did what you have been doing to other teams.
Yeah, there were these Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler runs that looked a lot like what David Montgomery was doing last year in the playoffs, where it was like it's first down and then all of a sudden it's 2nd and 2. And it's like that's not the Lions defense. That's not where any defense wants to be, let alone this Lions defense.
Right.
And
I think
yeah, and the last thing I wanted to say was Dan Quinn's aggressiveness, right?
Yep.
Like, I mean, it's super annoying that everybody wants to celebrate it, but people will continuously, push down on Dan Campbell for whatever reason. But
Hello,
like
human resources ass meme going on right now, man.
100%. But I think Dan Quinn deserves all the credit. All the credit. Feel so bad because the Lions couldn't score any points. Dan Quinn deserves a ton of credit for realizing that field goals were not going to win him this game.
Right.
And going into Ford Field and saying we have to score touchdowns and we're going to score touchdowns.
Ryan, that first field goal they kicked after they screwed up around there. Didn't you take that as an unalloyed win?
100%. There was the point in the game where I was like, field goals are stops.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this team turned the ball over 5 times and scored 31 points, Jeremy.
I'm right. And I'm glad you brought up the long drive in the second half because it brings me back to a point that we didn't talk on the offense that I want to talk about. And it's the narrative that the Lions went away from Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, listen, I think he established himself as a top 3 running back in the last 2 months of the season. He's playing outstanding football. He was phenomenal in the first half of this game. The Lions did not go away from Jahmyr Gibbs in this game. They had no opportunity to use him in the second half because on the very first drive, they ran him 4 times. They scored a touchdown. That's using him. Mm-hmm. On the second drive is the JMO idiotic play that we all agree was dumb and stupid and shouldn't have been done. You don't put JMO in a position like that. You don't. It was dumb. The next time they touch the ball, they're down 17 points with 7 minutes left.
You
what do you want
score.
them to do?
Yeah, that's another damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario, Ryan, because you're a team that likes having this balance. And what happens when you're down, Ryan? Every team, you take away their balance.
Yeah, I mean, but at that point, like Jeremy just said, though, you're down 17. You already made your bed. Now you have to lie in it. Now you have to force the ball down the field. Now you have to score. And Tom Brady he was really getting on the Lions about like, why are they huddling up? Like, and I get it. Like, I'm there, but at that point, I'm like, the Commanders have been the better football team all night long. Like, if the Lions pulled this off, which shout out Jake Bates on the onside kick though, like he almost had that one on Zach Ertz.
For this team being 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 on onside kick, it felt like they were close every single time.
I know, which is
hate
like
the rule.
Hang the banner.
Hang the banner.
We were close on onside kicks.
Recoveries.
All right. Can we take a break and talk about what comes next?
Let's do that, please.
Yeah.
Okay. This sucked. I do want to make one final note, and it's on the Jahmyr Gibbs thing, and it's what Jeremy touched on. And maybe it's something for the future. But I just want to say I usually resist Barry Sanders comparisons. But there were a few Jahmyr Gibbs runs where after it would happen and he sheds Commanders defenders, and they cut to Barry Sanders on the sideline, Ryan, didn't you think, yeah, that's appropriate?
Yeah, I watched this game with Wally, and after the big Gibbs run for the touchdown, he was like, Barry never had that.
Wow. Sorry, not Barry, Wally making his return to this podcast. Maybe good times are ahead. We're going to take a break, come back, and talk about what this all has meant. What does it all mean, Basil? And talk about maybe what comes next. This is the Pride of Detroit POD cast. Ryan, they kept happening to me when I was in the Herd studio today.
The lights going out on you?
Yeah, I hate those motion sensor things, man. They're so annoying.
Darren Rizzi. Did you see that for the Bears?
No.
He was the interim coach for the Saints.
Yeah.
Apparently, Bears are heavily interested in pursuing former Saints interim head coach Darren Rizzi as their special teams coordinator.
Cool.
As long as it's not Dave Phipp, that's what I cared about.
Dave Phipp ain't going anywhere. Dave Phipp is that guy that's just going to work in the same place for the next 50 years and be the happiest guy in the room.
Yeah.
Special teams coordinators must feel so good about their job security. If you're a good one.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah, I'm just here. It's cool.
Jory, thank you for the 13 months. As Dungeon of Doom implied, Brad Holmes, a certain Lions executive, was seen after the game visibly pissed. Does that make Brad & Co. get super aggressive this offseason? Does he go less Snead and F them picks? I doubt it. There is a little bit that I want to talk about in the next segment about window talk a little bit.
I'd be pissed off and upset after that game too.
Yeah,
visibly so. Like,
right.
That's not going to change what I do in a week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to affect what you do for your job.
I would hope not, especially when a lot of those decisions are made months later. I mean, free agency is still 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away.
Yeah, if you're
Ryan,
still that angry, like, seek help.
We're on the road to Ryan. We're on the road to WrestleMania.
I almost muted you there. Subron, thank you for the 3 months subscribed. And then Nick the Greek, 100 bits, says, hoping Ben Johnson is a sabotage plant to the Bears, i.e. hoping to see several Kyle Van Noy for 6th rounder type trades.
Does it make either of you guys sick that Kyle Van Noy is still out there performing at a high level in the NFL?
No, not at all.
I like seeing
the...
Jelani Tavai during Patriots games. That's my favorite thing to watch.
Honestly, like seeing Lions players that were under Matt Patricia go out and succeed is joy to me.
Oh my God.
Kyle Van Noy was Kyle Van Noy just Patricia? I thought it was a lot more than that.
Kyle Van Noy was Caldwell era.
Yeah.
Oh, he was traded away before.
Yeah, Jelani Tavai was definitely Patricia era for sure. I mean, Darius Slay's gone on to have some success in this league.
Hey, former Lion versus former Lion violence last night.
I did see that great quote from Slay after the game where he's like towards the end of the game, like there was that big catch that Puka had to get them down into the red zone or near it. And Slay, like after the game, was like, he's like, man, Steph, why you keep on coming after me, man? Why do you keep on? Like he's like it was a battle like all game long, but then he like tried to like keep on picking on me like down the stretch.
But you're the one covering Puka.
I know people. I know Slay is a very polarizing figure, but I still love him.
I love him to death.
God, dude. I mean, like one of my favorite Lions.
Even Eagles fans kind of have a love-hate relationship. I kind of get this secondhand from Eagles blog people, but.
Ryan, didn't we see Slay courtside when we went to the Pistons game that one time?
We might have, yeah. Trying to think.
Because we stopped at Hoops to start.
Oh, yeah.
Was it when they were still at the Palace? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, I don't know. Like, speaking of that though, that was like one of the best parts about having Slay here. Remember how you go to all the high school football games on Friday nights and make those call outs on Twitter? But like, he'll say some stuff where it's like, dude, get your foot out of your mouth.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I kind of love about the guy is like, he just is who he is. And he's an awesome football player.
He's
like,
unapologetic about it. And I don't know. I feel like fans expect players to act like fans sometimes, if that makes sense. Where it's just like,
yes.
They need them to agonize over games for weeks on hand and can't see them be happy for a minute. Like if they're going out there shaking hands and like having a laugh with one of their former teammates after a game that they just lost, it pisses some people off to no ends, and I'm just like,
Get over
be a
it.
human being, and like
Oh
just because
my God.
you're living in this world where you're like, you can be as depressed as you want after a game, but expecting everyone,
That's some old school.
including players, to feel that way too is ridiculous.
That's some old school, like, that's some old school fucking like Mike and Mike attitude that you got to lock yourself in a fucking hyperbaric time chamber after a loss and just lock in until you can avenge your honor or something.
How can you be so old school and so torn up about that, and then see Jameson Williams doing his best Phillip Rivers impression in the end zone, and be like, "Oh, I'm cool with that though."
What was the other because wasn't it Jahmyr Gibbs who copied someone's
Yeah, he did the Kevin Durant dance.
Yeah, and Kevin Durant's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, because Durant's a Commanders fan.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that's right.
Yeah, so that's why he did it. Yeah. So, oh man, dude, JMO's so good.
Yeah.
They need to exercise his option.
I think they will. I think he's come around on it.
I feel like it's worth it.
That's too expensive. I don't
Dude,
think they're gonna do that.
He's so important. Like you just don't replace him. Like,
I don't know. It depends on who the hell the offensive coordinator is. I don't know what they're gonna run.
I know this might be a little raw here, but can I ask you guys who you're rooting for the rest of the way in the playoffs?
Commanders.
If anyone?
Bills.
I'm Bills.
I'll take a Bills Commanders
That's the only
Super
one I want.
Bowl.
That sounds
Anything
fantastic.
else is a disaster to me.
Can we take?
I don't hate the Chiefs as much as everyone else hates the Chiefs. But
I think if we're out of it, I would like to see a team as cursed as the Bills finally get that one.
yeah,
Like, Four Falls of Buffalo, things of that nature. Like, that would be. I don't know if they can do it. I'm feeling a lot of dread after watching them beat the Ravens, where it's like, you guys finally had a game where it, I mean, their defense is going to continue to be a liability, and they kind of didn't have mistakes, but good luck, I guess.
It might be a good matchup against the Chiefs, who haven't really been super impressive offensively.
I guess, but I get the sense that people are feeling like the Chiefs are kind of finally waking up. I don't want to play this game at all. People are doing about the officiating at all. Like, that's stupid. That's
What game?
I mean, I called it when I saw Clayton Martin was going to be their officiating crew, but
What do you
I
mean?
don't think it was malice.
What officiating stuff?
Are you being serious, Ryan? Or
No, I mean from what angle? Because like the flag on Mahomes is ridiculous.
Yeah, but I think
It
the
is
idea that they're
ridiculous, but
getting favoritism
Oh.
intentionally is what we're talking
yes,
about.
yes.
Intentionally, no, but I think, are they refereeing Patrick Mahomes differently than other quarterbacks? 1,000%.
Superstars always do. Superstars always do, and home teams always get preferential sometimes.
And I will say that I got
Always
caught.
preferential sometimes.
Look,
80%
Lions had
of
a
the time it
phantom
works every
face.
time.
Listen, man, that phantom face mask last night
No,
or Saturday.
But the other thing was that I did call Patrick Mahomes a word that I can't repeat on air when he flopped. That was where I drew the line, and I was like, "You're a loser." Like, I don't know how we've gotten to the point where you are this unlikable, but you have arrived. And I will say that I said the word, and I thought I said it not loud enough, and then I heard the word parroted by one of my children from the other room. So then that was a whole conversation we had to have. But I was still like, I was well within my right to call Patrick Mahomes that word that I called him when he stepped out of bounds and flopped. Like, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing because it felt very much like, I got that call earlier. I'll do this and I'll get another call too.
Right. No question. And the very next play is the one that he scrambles and scores a touchdown on a ridiculous play. And that's why I tweeted out, like, those last two plays are exactly why you love and exactly why you hate Patrick Mahomes.
To a T. He's parallel to the earth and throws a freaking dart to the end zone. And it's that's an alien play. Like, you're an incredible quarterback. Quit acting like a word that I called you that I'm not saying on air.
One of my friends at work has the hottest take that, like, he believes Like it's gotten so bad that like if a quarterback reaches the line of scrimmage, the play should just be blown dead.
Yeah.
If you pass like X yards past the line of scrimmage, just like the play's dead. And I've been resisting it, but honestly, like what else are we supposed to do about quarterbacks right now?
And very, I mean, like very clearly, like, and I don't think officiating had much of anything to do with what happened on Saturday, but I think that it was absolutely egregious that Frankie Louvu can lower the crown of
Yeah,
his helmet. He sees Jared Goff and he launches the crown of his helmet into the head and neck area of Jared Goff, and there's nothing to be said about that on the same day that Patrick Mahomes' play happens.
well, I think I because it's funny because then the same kind of a similar hit happens to Jaden Daniels and like they call it, but I think at that point I understand that because it's like, all right, we missed it this time, so we have to like, get it.
I want,
But
like,
I also, but
so
I
you're
also
talking
think,
about-
I also think that like we're at the point now where far enough away from the backlash to Rams Saints and trying to review this stuff, we have the system in play where upstairs review isn't going to take a bajillion years. Like there's no reason that we can't have more replay review. Like we can batten down the referee association's resistance to this and have some proper views. Sorry,
Well,
sorry, Jeremy. I just wanted to get that off.
No. Really quick on that. The tricky part with that is you have it's what window are you going to open to that? It has to be black and white things that you are going to be allowed to be reviewed, which is why I think it'll probably change this offseason, but it's why face mask wasn't on the original list of things you can do, is because you're allowed to grab the face mask. You're not allowed to forcibly pull it, though. And I think that line is a little less black and white than what they were thinking. Now, I think it's going to change a little bit because now that there have been like 2 high-profile cases of them clearly getting it wrong, they'll change it. But like even now, like roughing the passer is kind of reviewable by this instant process, but not completely. They were talking about it a little bit on the Mahomes hit, right? Where it's like they can review whether there was contact to the head or not, but if there's any at all, they can't say it wasn't forcible, which is the line between penalty and not penalty.
Which I feel like you can tell if you review things.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a judgment call, though, right? Like there is not a definition of forcible. That's something you just have to see.
Yeah. It almost feels like it just has to, again, I think it comes back to like the targeting stuff where it's like, it feels like they need to do a better job of striking this balance between like taking care of the player's health, right? Like maybe it should only be on like hits like,
the
neck or
stuff
above or something like that, right? Like where like that can be reviewed, but like a horse collar tackle. I mean, I think I thought I saw Chris Jones do a hip drop tackle against C.J. Stroud in that game, and like that didn't get called.
That penalty did not get called all year. Like I think there was maybe 1 or 2.
Right, but then players would just get fined on Tuesday, right? Like that's what ended up happening, and it's like I don't know, like nobody wants to see Kansas City, Philadelphia, Chris. It's the last thing that anybody wants to see.
I think I could live with the Philadelphia edge of things, but not with the Kansas City edge of things.
I don't need to see that again.
Sorry.
I mean, on one hand, too, like I also understand too. It's like, Jeremy, we're not playing Fortnite right now.
I don't know why that popped up.
There is a small part of me like, but I think it's crazy we finally came to this point in the Chiefs, because I feel like if you had asked me before the season, Ryan, like I'm like I still can't bring myself to hate the Chiefs in the way that I've hated like the New England Patriots, and they're on the cusp of doing something that's never happened in a three-peat. And yet it's just this season has just made us all feral and mad at the Chiefs because like why aren't you losing the way you're supposed to lose? like that it's like how do you keep getting away with this shit? Like, and I think you're right. Like Mahomes is becoming less likable too.
Like super unlikable.
Yeah.
Like he went from being like one of my favorite players that played on, a team elsewhere in the league to like now he's like completely flip flop. It's a full 180 on Patrick Mahomes for me at this point.
I don't have that for him yet. You know who has turned? Andy Reid, and it's just for the damn State Farm commercials. Get them out of my. I will mute the shit out of both of you right now. That I can't say.
I don't have that hate. I don't have that hate of him, but it's definitely
Oh, I like cheeseburgers.
I don't know, man.
Cool personality. You like cheeseburgers.
I think it's the John Boys. I think it was on Blue Sky, where it's like there's so many other cool stories this year that a Chiefs victory feels like the least.
He's a Chiefs fan too.
I know. Like that seems like the least offer you can make. Like even the Eagles, like getting back there or like top it up is still better than the Chiefs, I guess. I know. Listen, I apparently people think I am like a secret Eagles fan or something on how many times I have to defend like. It feels like every post game, like everyone wants me to shit on Eagles fans for being the worst people on earth, and I just won't do it.
Why?
Because there's plenty of other options out there.
I'm rooting for the Commanders though because I want to see these national media types just break their necks over having to put Jaden Daniels ahead of Patrick Mahomes on like a list to begin next year when it comes to quarterbacks.
I think it's like now that Bears fans are going to be in their bag for the next 7 months, like it's always going to be good to be like, yeah, but you could have Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I know, right? Like
it already happened this weekend. I was in a studio with some Bears guys. It already happened.
I do want to say though that I think Daniel's ceiling is higher than Caleb's.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that makes me worried about Daniels, and it's the only thing, and it's off of the hit he took, in that he is still a guy who will get Looney Tune destroyed in a game.
Dude, he's Gumby frame.
I know. He will bounce right back. He's fine, but like
Ross Tucker
shit.
called him Gumby, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then also the 5 questions you did, the guy also called him Gumby.
He did call him
like,
Gumby.
is this something that they just call him? This must be
is
like
this his real nickname? Is like quarterback Gumby?
I don't know, man. But with I'm not selling all of the Caleb Williams stock. I'm not saying that by any means. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Just out of spite. Like I do think Ben Johnson's going to figure shit out with him, but out of spite, I'm going to say no. He's doomed.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a better quarterback than Jordan Love. I know that much. Like now, Ben Johnson plus
sure,
Caleb Williams,
sure, 100%.
Like, Jordan Love is by far the worst quarterback in the division.
Toyotathon is canceled.
Like, and that's I mean, the Vikings could go into next season with Daniel Jones. They could go in with JJ McCarthy. They could go in with Sam Darnold again. They could get Kirk Cousins back. Like, they could do whatever they want, and Jordan Love is still the 4th best quarterback. He might be the 5th best quarterback because people are bringing up Malik Willis. So, like, that's the problem.
Okay.
Right?
Here we go again.
So I want to make it clear, I'm not selling all my Caleb Williams stock, but I think for sure, like, if Chicago could redo it.
The question is
Daniels, right?
The question is, would Ben Johnson have taken the job if it was Jaden Daniels? Because he kind of could have had Jaden Daniels last year when he turned down the Washington job. Sucks to suck, Benedict.
It is true that it's like, congratulations, you played yourself a little bit on the basketball guy thing.
Buddy, get ready to learn Chinese.
I think my only reservation on the Commanders in these playoffs is, and again, this is, I was trying to make this point and then I got accused of being an Eagles fan again. And as someone has pointed out, this might just be a Sirianni Italian thing. But, man, Washington fans are nasty bastards.
Are they?
Tony Kornheiser came from the DC sports scene. That's all I'm going to say. Like, this is just an arrogant group. And there is a more than 0% chance they're going to go back to a racist name with the rebrand.
This is for someone who won't say bad things about Philly to throw Washington fans who have had to deal with a couple of decades of Dan Snyder. Like, you can't have any sympathy for that fan base that had to deal with that guy as their owner?
Are you talking about the fan base that used to wave stars and bars flags? Yeah, I'm not going to have sympathy for Washington fans. I'm not. They used to wave stars and bars flags. They used to have the word Dixie, and they still have the word Dixie in their fight song. Get out of here.
Is that their decision?
Though they keep singing it. They keep fucking singing it.
All right. If we're gonna cast the sins of 70 years ago on a fan base,
No, actually, you know what? Joshua Mercer, who I know, Joshua calls me out a lot of stuff. He's backing me up on this. So thank you, Joshua. I feel like our fights, I always appreciate them, and seeing you on my side makes me feel I am in the right for once.
I understand why Lions fans would think that Washington fans are terrible because they just stunted on you, right? Like, there's a little bit of maybe recency bias, hurt feelings. They're wearing buffs. They're doing Amon-Ra's dance in the locker room. I get it. That's hard to see, but let's not act like the Lions weren't doing the same shit to all the teams they were beating.
I do want to say thank you because I haven't seen any of it.
Yeah.
Like, I edited the recap. And then
you click bedtime.
Well, I was like, I'll keep editing the stuff here because it'll keep me distracted away from Twitter land. Like, I don't need to be anywhere online, like consuming anything that's going on. And you were like, nope, go ahead and take the rest of the night off. And I was like, cool. I'm gonna watch Goosebumps starring David Schwimmer.
Oh, there you go.
Like, I was like, what can I do that is the exact opposite of what just happened for the last 4.5 hours? And I was like, I decided on that. And then I bought a Nintendo Switch because I was like,
oh, no. Wait, they just announced Switch 2.
Yeah, I know. But a Switch 2 wasn't going to help me right now in the immediate feelings of me needing something to distract myself.
That's fair.
Am I supposed to pre-order a Switch 2? No, I bought a Nintendo Switch like a good consumerist.
Do you feel Sorry, one more question, and maybe we get to segment 3. Do you feel bad? What's the most bad you feel for for any of the teams you lost?
Ravens.
Is it Ravens?
Yeah.
I feel really bad for the Ravens. I feel bad for Mark Andrews. He's like in a Josh Reynolds spot times 1,000 though, because he's a way more high profile player.
Yep.
I saw a lot of people like you are walking back to Baltimore. I kind of feel bad. I kind of feel bad for I thought you were going to go Rams, Jeremy, because I feel like this was kind of I thought this was the last hurrah. I don't know how many more years we're going to keep getting Stafford to do this. And for me personally, I did kind of buy into a little bit of the Rams trying to do it for LA kind of mood.
I can see why that's closer for you.
I was rooting for, like, again, to the people who think I root for Philadelphia, I was rooting for the Rams 24/7 in this game.
I was rooting for the Rams until they pulled a flea flicker. Then I'm like, oh, can't root for you guys anymore. Although, for some reason, a flea flicker screen is way more acceptable to me. Because it twists it at least a little bit that makes it a little more unique.
I like how we keep getting addendums and extra subtheses to Jeremy's screeds against flea flickers. Double flea flickers are okay. Screen flea flickers are okay.
They're different plays. I'm allowed to have different opinions on different plays.
Man, the shovel pass from Montgomery to St. Brown, that was such a cool play.
It was an awesome
play. That had no reason working. And I after on, I was kind of like, if that hadn't worked, I would have been so mad about it, but it worked.
And then the deep dive that somebody did to find that was a play that the Steelers ran against the Colts in the playoffs, and everybody was like, well, how would Ben Johnson even find that? It's like, well, Antoine Randall was on the team. It was like a play from like the playoffs in like 03 or 04 or something like that. I was like, oh my God. It's so cool.
Watching that in standard definition.
It's why whoever the next offensive coordinator, any interview that they take with an offensive coordinator, it's like, all right, before we sit down, write down your 10 favorite trick plays right now.
And they go, Bumblrooski.
Fingers hovering over it. You got one more in you?
We didn't even.
Sorry, sorry. That was premature. Sorry.
This is day 2 of the Lions offseason. You are already like dictator mode.
Gosh, I tried to stay away from the inauguration. Whoa. Just anyways, the Sam Laporta catch we didn't talk about at all. Like that was
yes.
Was that the catch of the year for the Lions?
So
for the Lions,
I'm sorry. Has he been wearing? Maybe this is just me being really stupid.
Just the past couple weeks. It's definitely newish.
The brace?
The brace on his arm, yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah, because I'm like, I don't remember.
Badass.
I was going to say, I don't remember him being the bionic commando out there.
Dude, I every time I see him now, I'm like, dude, it's baby Gronk.
I mean, he did have a massive
Gronk's
spike after he... Yeah, I mean, it was an unreal catch. It was a great play from Goff, too.
KJ, which Amon-Ra catch? Because there were a few. I think the Packers one stands out to me, but I always thought that was a better throw by
the
Goff.
Amon-Ra on Saturday night, the diving one, deep down the right sideline.
Oh, yeah, that was good, but Laporta's catch was for a touchdown and insane.
Yeah. Because, like, when you saw that live, you're like, wow, that was crazy. He must have, like, reached out and, like, tipped it to himself and then caught it with 2 hands. No. He didn't even bother with that second hand. He's just like, boop. It's crazy.
Incredible play.
He played really well down the stretch. I know a lot of people are like, this was kind of a step back for him this year, but I felt like after, he's dealing with some injuries early in the season. I feel like after he got over that, he was... Yeah. Like, I'd like to see what his pace was from, like, week 10 on, and if that was on pace with what he did last year. I bet it was pretty close.
Yeah. No, he's still really good. Like,
yeah.
They don't have a Sam Laporta over in Chicago.
Not Cole Kmet?
Maybe Cole Kmet.
How dare you? Oh, Chris. Your Domer is showing.
Well, hold on. I'm USC. I'm Domer. I'm an Eagles fan. What's going on here?
You're Catholic.
What does USC have to do with Catholicism?
Cole Kmet went to Notre Dame.
I said USC, not Cole Kmet. Which way are you leaning tonight, Ryan? Are you laying all those points on Ohio State?
Oh, dude, I'm definitely rooting for touchdown Jesus. Come on,
this is
I don't want Ohio State to win.
Yeah, I've got at least one friend who I prefer that he not destroy himself if Ohio State loses, but otherwise, like, yeah.
I am rooting against Ohio State, though, just because I want to see all the crazy-ass discourse that will be, well, I don't know, Ryan Day still can't win the big one.
That would be great.
On the other hand, if he did win, he is going to get out a shotgun and go find Lou Holtz, which would be very cool.
Does Ryan Day have a skin condition, or can I make fun of his face?
His rosacea?
Yeah.
Just having red cheeks?
I don't know. He looks like a doll.
I mean, like,
it's not just red cheeks. It's like shiny and tight. Like his skin seems very tight. I don't know. It's very weird.
I feel like it's just rosacea, and he's just kind of older now. I don't know. Maybe he's had some work done. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on what Ryan Day's doing.
All right, I'm not going to body shame either way. I'm not going to face shame.
There you go. It's 2025, dude.
He is a rival, so it feels like it's at least a little bit okay.
It is.
All right, I got a bunch
of... Diablo doesn't care.
Exactly. All right. I got some alerts to go through, and then we should finish up here.
I'm just going to refund the list casts.
Okay.
We just don't have the time for it.
Sorry, buddy.
Sorry. And sorry to Jack as well, who I think also won the list cast.
Zoo10, thank you for the follow. G Money, thank you for the 22-month subscribe to the channel. Nick the Greek 100 bit says, I was a Mahomes fan until the flop attempt against the Texans. Bad sportsmanship. MAGA Holmes is officially dead to me after that. Joshua Mercer 100 bit says, I'm about to have parrots in here
saying naughty words. If Jeremy keeps giving me half seconds, tell kids to leave the room.
I got it. McVay Rob 40 bit says, I don't want to give you guys more work, but can we get more POD content on Blue Sky? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to put in the extra work.
Well, I wrote back to McVay Rob on the chat, like,
okay,
I think you and I have talked about it, but like if we did do it, that would be something I would try to like get a team together for, like because I'm the one who's like most active on Blue Sky. I
Yeah.
know you just don't have the bandwidth for another social media platform.
Sure don't.
Yeah. Whereas I am more than happy to stick around on Blue Sky, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how much work we can slop on our plates.
Slop it up. All right.
Season's over, baby.
It's also an automation problem because like a lot of those articles we push from SB Nation, like those directly go to
Correct.
Twitter/X. There's no mechanism
And
for us to
Facebook.
do that. Yeah,
Correct.
there's no mechanism for us to do that to Blue Sky.
Not yet. There might be
Not
in
yet.
the future. We do have. We're using a program called Dash Hudson. I think it's actually called Dash or Social Hudson or Dash Social now. But anyways, that's something that I think is being examined by the overlords. So maybe the articles will go up there. I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to Blue Sky. I'm just not. I'm sorry.
I get it. I listen. It's a lot. There's a lot of it, and I tell people all the time, like my decision on Blue Sky isn't anything big about it. It's just personal aesthetics for me. But you know,
Jeremy, did you see Phenom? Wow did the research that they wanted,
Oh, there you go.
that you wanted them to do, and looks pretty close.
Yeah. The question is, if you stretch out that 10 to 18, average it out per game, and then make it a 17-game season, how does that compare to how Laporta did for the entire season last year?
Yeah, but even that interesting note though, like there was a game that he missed in 2024 too,
Right.
between weeks 10 and 18. So
Yep.
I have to imagine that the per game numbers are pretty close.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for doing that. John did
we
it kind of
do-
too.
Whatever.
Someone's asking about a Discord. Oh shit, is that a limited one I sent you, Jeremy? I think it might
I
have been.
haven't done anything with it yet.
I
don't
know, but I just realized the one I sent you was probably one with a with a
John.
No, that's the one that lasts forever. So I'll post the Discord. Someone was asking about Discord. I'll post the Discord link in chat. So
John, you're gonna move to America and you're gonna choose Chicago?
I don't think they're gonna let him in America now.
Okay.
I mean, it's only a matter of time before Canada is part of America anyways, right?
I just wanted to say,
Sorry. I'm encouraging chat not to say anything political, and then we go and
then look at that. Look, we all did it. But I will say that, John, I mean, if you do choose Chicago, you are choosing the land of the best pizza. So
Altoona?
Damn. Y'all trying to create some enemies in our chat, huh?
Chris,
Ryan didn't
Chris, do you like Chicago style pizza?
It's fine.
It's
enjoy
fine.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate both Detroit pizza, New York, and Chicago pizzas for each of their merits. Like I think that's the best way to do it, man. Like I know some people be like, "Oh, it's not actually pizza." It's fine. It's sauce, cheese, bread, toppings. Like I get every other Christmas or so, I would get like some gift boxes from someone I work with some Lou Malnati's pizzas. They're very good.
I had to look up Altoona pizza, and
Yeah.
now I don't want dinner. You idiot.
Altoona pizza, I will not appreciate. St.
Ever.
Louis pizza. St. Louis pizza can fuck off too.
Is Altoona pizza that like you're heating up
It's
craft
Velveeta
singles on a
top
pizza?
of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It came up a lot during the.
It's like patty melt pizza.
It came up a lot during the Luigi arrest
God.
because he was in
All
Altoona.
right, now we're headed down too dark of a road. Let's get in. Let's
Why couldn't the
close
Lions
this
have just won?
I actually am not a big fan of Italian beef, XJ Snake. I don't know. I'm not. Italian beef is not. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Chicago beef. Yes.
I
no?
don't have opinion on it. I think I've probably
think
had one ever, maybe zero.
I just feel like I'd rather have a cheesesteak.
You know who likes Italian beef? Ben Johnson.
We better learn it pretty quick. Segment 2.
By the way, I am 100% in on calling him Benedict Johnson from now on.
Yeah.
But like not in like a like I'm actually pissed off at you. How could you do this to us? I'm so offended. But I just think it's funny.
Oh, it's funny and it's what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like it's not anything like ill will or malice. Like
exactly.
It feels like Bears fans are really trying to dunk on Lions fans right now. I'm just trying not to give them any ammo for that.
Like,
I just don't care.
yeah, it's certainly nothing like what I just sent you in Slack, which is absolutely insane. Like this is the stuff this is why I'm staying off of Twitter these days, because my God, the internet was a mistake.
This is why AI images need to go, because people can create shit like that way too quick.
I just don't. I'm trying to say. I was trying to say some blue sky. It's like I don't feel like I'm doing copium when I make a joke about Roma Dunze getting being the first receiver with 3 interceptions in the league. But like I don't know what he's going to be as a head coach. Nobody does. Like it feels like we talk about these head coaches in like huge slam dunk hire ways, and I don't think anyone outside of Detroit, certainly not among. I mean, this crew keyed in on Dan Campbell. A lot of people nationally thought Dan Campbell was a disaster to start. Everyone thought Urban Meyer was a slam dunk in Jacksonville. Like you have no clue who these guys are going to be. You just hope you get it right.
Yeah, and Lions could have hired Matt Campbell.
Yeah. Second.
Oh my god. You made me open Twitter and I'm already seeing a million things I don't want to see.
Y'all better be ready for scraps in the offseason. I'm just going to say that.
All right. Let's do this.
Wrapping up the Pride of Detroit POD cast. This is a little extra long one because it kind of has to be. I know there was a lot of asks even the night of when it comes to, hey, what do you think about this on the roster? What do you think about that? And this is not something I think we're equipped to do yet. And before we even leave that area, I do want to talk about what this is all meant at the end of the day, is the words I think that Jeremy, you described on what you wanted to talk about. That it's like
big picture stuff, not like the little micro stuff.
What did the big picture look like? Partly on putting the season into context, and now, obviously recording after the Ben Johnson news too, where the Lions really go from here without talking about granular roster moves and stuff. Like, look, I'm going to repeat what I said at the start. Like, this is still a roster with an uncountable amount of Pro Bowlers and All-Pro talent on them. And a lot of those on defense disappeared through the years because of no fault of anyone. I want to make sure about that clear, that it's no fault of anyone, because I'm kind of like getting weary of seeing people asking about injuries, or even this weird idea that like Dan Campbell is running them too hard and that's why they're hurt. If that was like Dan Campbell, like, first off, this idea that you could have just like, played it easy, Ryan, goes out the window when the Vikings are chasing you the entire year. And also, like, going too hard doesn't like explain a broken jaw or multiple freak leg injuries. Like the people don't want to hear that luck, that there are things in this universe you can't control. The Lions can control what happened to that defense at all. But, you just hope that you don't have that bag of luck next year too, that it's something different on that front. And it's still ultimately at the end of the day, a team that has the main architects of its vision here in Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. And you just hope that's enough to keep, to come back next year and take another punch at it again.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflicting emotions for me moving forward, because ultimately, as Ryan said, and as you were saying here, talent wins out, right? And the Lions are going to have a talented roster next year. There's no doubt about it. I really like Nick Corti from Over the Cap. He put out a graph today that said, on one axis, it's amount of snaps that you're going to have to replace because these guys are headed to unrestricted free agency. The other axis is cap room. And the Lions are in the ideal quadrant of they don't need to replace that many snaps of guys they're going to lose to free. They could lose to free agency, and they've got a lot of cap space. They got like 55 million, 55 cheeseburgers, whatever. And so
fries.
that's right.
Simoleons.
But there is a little sense, not of the window closing, but it's tightening. We've said this before. Things are only going to get more difficult in the future as the contracts to these big stars that you've acquired start to really hit. You signed 4 guys to mega extensions this year. It's not going to hurt you much next year. 2025 is looking. The cap is going to be tight. You're already you're at 55 million this year. It's more like 22 in 2025 already. And of course, you don't know where the cap is going to end up necessarily, but based on estimates, that's what we're talking about.
But you're saying this for this offseason, though, it's okay. You're talking about for
I'm sorry, 2026. That's right.
2026, I think Jared Goff's cap hit goes up to something like 70 million.
Right. And that's when everything is going to start hitting. And this offseason, you're going to pay Aiden Hutchinson $1 billion. All that is going to catch up to you to a point where, these guys are still on your team. You're still going to have a competitive, good football team. But I don't know if you're going to be able to build the depth that they had this year around everything. I don't know if they're going to be able to dig into free agency and fill in the little holes here and there, unless you're going to need to continue to hit on the draft picks. You're going to need to get something on Giovanni Manu. You're going to have to get Christian Mahogany to maybe be a starter. You're going to have to get Ennis Rakestraw to be someone who you can rely on in some facet. You need to be close to perfect in the draft to make sure this thing can continue in 2026 and beyond. And so 2025 feels not like a last chance, but maybe best chance. And if 2025 is your best chance and you're doing it while replacing your offensive and defensive coordinator, that sucks. That sucks that you missed out on this opportunity.
Yeah, I know, but let's not worry about 2026.
That's
you know
fair.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, wasn't 2024 the best chance that the Lions were going to have at it?
Yes.
I just disagree with the idea of a window to begin with, because I just don't. That always feels like it's like because there's been other teams where it feels like we've said, oh yeah, the window's closed on the Rams, the window's closed on the like the Eagles, and like they maybe there was a couple lean years, some here or there, but they came right back into it. Like, I feel like you just try to stay good as long as you can try to stay good. And I feel like with the way the Lions draft and how this stuff works, Ryan, like I don't know if, it'll probably slow down. To Jeremy's point, you definitely can't go as deep, but I feel like it's like there's no reason it's going to go maximalist the other way right now. I guess that's the tough thing for me.
I think too, you look around the division, that graph that Jeremy was talking about, the Vikings aren't in a very favorable position, because not only do they have to replace a lot of snaps, what kind of draft capital do they have?
Not much.
They have 3 picks right now, I think, I think it might be 3 picks with the expected compensatory that they're going to get for Kirk Cousins.
Right.
And this is a very weird turnaround for the NFC North, Ryan. We're talking about the best division in football, 3 teams with 40 wins, go 0-3 in the playoffs, and all of a sudden all the warts are on display.
Yeah, it happens in a hurry. And I don't know, Green Bay, they don't have their quarterback situation figured out at all whatsoever. So,
God. They're a young team, but that doesn't mean they'll become good.
I do just want to say that the Lions, I think, are still top to bottom the deepest team in the NFC North.
Yeah.
And then I think that's where they're going to start, without taking into account what happens in free agency, without taking into account what's going to happen with the draft picks that they do still have. I think that they can do some maneuvering around, but I think Jeremy's point is probably the most important when it comes to deep moving forward beyond next year is Ennis Rakestraw a player for you? Is Giovanni a player for you? Does Broderick Martin have
Right.
a Levi Onwuzurike kind of emergence? I know it isn't injury related like it was for Levi, but are those guys going to be contributors for you, or are they just going to be guys that end up like James Mitchell, where it's like, oh, he's the last guy in on the roster, or he's the first guy off the bubble? If that starts to happen with more players like your first and second round picks, or Broderick Martin was a third round pick, and Ennis Rakestraw was a second round pick, and Josh Pascal was a second round pick. They relied on him a lot this season, but was that by default? Was that by they didn't have anybody else to man that position? I think some of those players, they're going to need to see those year 2, year 3 jumps,
Yeah.
in their trajectory to say, okay, they are building something like the Baltimore Ravens, or they are building something that is sustainable like the Kansas City Chiefs. I know they're obviously an outlier because of the alien.
But to go down the line, to kind of revisit some of my anxieties, like, this is why the 2024 draft class was very anxiety inducing for me. They took a lot of swings. They took a lot of, they traded up 3 times. They take a swing on a safety to turn into a running back. They take a guy from British Columbia. Like, those guys are going to have to hit. They don't have to be all pros. They don't have to be pro bowlers, but they're going to have to be significant contributors because that margin is getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Now, to be clear, is there someone I trust more to shoot that gap, to make sure that these guys are getting coached up, that you're picking the right players that have that high ceiling that they can reach? Do I have more confidence than Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes to get all that done? No, there's no one I trust more. And so if there's a regime that can do it and let's add coaches to that too, to find valuable replacements for your offensive coordinator, for your defensive coordinator, this guy has been able to bring in talented coaches each and every season. So I have the utmost confidence that they can weather this storm, but they are going to have to be at the top of their game. They are going to have to continue to operate like coach of the year and general manager of the year.
One person I have to worry a little bit about in the confidence, not enough that I'm going to just completely throw him away, but like, I don't know how many more years we'll keep getting the Jared Goff chance. It's a very weird year for him, right? Like, because to start, we get a jersey from him put in Canton because of a perfect passer game. And yet down the stretch, it started to really, fall apart. And again, we talked about it with the Ben Johnson replacement. That's going to be a big one, Jeremy, like on how well they work with Jared Goff, and can Jared Goff keep performing at this high level. And as I snuck in there, like in 2026, he'll be 70 million against the cap. I think it's 70 million in 2026, and then 2027 it's 60 million. So like, the Lions have committed to him for the future, and like, he's going to have to shoot. Like, it's going to get tighter. It's going to get tighter as far as quarterback play in the NFC. Depending what happens with Jaden Daniels another year, like, this is not suddenly going to be, a conference that isn't going to have the kind of sharks in the water at quarterback like you would see in the AFC. Like, that possibility might come up because there's some young guys who want to prove themselves, be it Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, or maybe, like, I don't know, the Giants somehow get, like, Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders, and that somehow works out, or whatever.
But who's the Panthers? Either way, Bryce Young. Like, Bryce Young started to turn it on a little bit towards the end of last year too.
Bryce Young's been turning it on too. Like, I do feel like the pressure's on him to keep not just performing at this level, but to really have less of these bad games, because that was Saturday was emblematic of it. You cannot have a game where Goff is turning the ball over like that. It was cool to win the Texans game, but like, when you're in the playoffs, you're not going to get a game like the Texans game where 5 turnovers is something you can easily ignore. And like, look, I think Jared Goff is still a great quarterback. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. but he does have the bad game. And that can happen at any time. And it's just kind of like, yeah, wow, I just really don't want that to happen in a 4 game stretch where the Lions will be in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, Goff is always going to be a key to victory. I think he's in general cut down on those bad games. But yeah, there were a couple really notable ones this year, and they managed to escape one. They didn't escape the other. And my confidence in him remains extremely high, but having a new offensive coordinator in town is going to be a big factor on that. It's key. It's why Dan Campbell wants him involved in the process. It's why Dan Campbell doesn't want to change things too much. Why he wants
this offense. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Why it's so important to him that they build around Jared Goff, because they believe in Jared Goff. They're financially tied to Jared Goff for the next 3 years, and he's been good enough to take 2 franchises on the verge of a Super Bowl or to a Super Bowl. I have no doubt in my mind that the Lions can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. No doubt in my mind.
And I know that offensive line is standing behind him, and it's there's a lot of from them don't doubt, from I think it was Penei Sewell, don't doubt Jared Goff at all. I get that. I totally get that, but I don't know how much more Jared Goff chance we get, because I do think that game was a big blow to the collective confidence across Detroit in Jared Goff to do what we've kind of assumed was Jared Goff things in a positive. When I say Jared Goff things in the positive context,
it's interesting because this is the first year things have ended on a bad note with Jared Goff. The first year he goes 3-1, I think, in his last 4 starts. They end 2022 with the Packers win. They lose the NFC Championship game, but no one really points to Jared Goff being at fault for that, because he wasn't. And plus, he had just bested Sean McVay a couple weeks earlier. This is the first year that not just Jared Goff, the entire team is kind of going into the offseason on a down note. And I'm very interested to see how fans react over the next 6 months. If the first 48 hours are any key, it's gonna be some dark times.
This feels like officially the honeymoon is over. Once and for all, the honeymoon over.
We're really counting on Cade Cunningham to raise morale around the city, and I think Jared Goff should send something nice his way.
Brutal night for all 3 teams in action, by the way, for Detroit. That was
oh, dude, we definitely
Saturday was not fun.
We definitely our wings burnt up. We flew a little too close to the sun with we're all back. We're all back.
We're all doing good.
I thought you meant literally the Red Wings, and maybe that is the perfect analogy for the Red Wings. Is oh, you fire your head coach, suddenly everything's great. Oh no, I forgot. It's there's an interim head coach bump thing that happens with a lot of teams, and now you got too close to the sun and the wings have melted.
So the question I want to ask you guys though is there a player going into the offseason that the Lions are standing to lose, but you think they absolutely need to bring back? And I know it's kind of a pointed question because there's really just a couple of players that kind of fit that bill. So I guess I'm essentially asking who's more important to retain for you guys for the defense? Is it Carlton Davis or is it Zadarius Smith?
So Zadarius Smith is under contract, right?
Yes,
but a cap casualty for sure. A cap casualty candidate, I should say.
A refinancing, renegotiating.
Yeah.
Charles Harris situation.
I think it's Carlton Davis. I am so tired of doing this with DBs. And you're about to lose a very DB forward. And you might lose a very DB forward defensive coordinator.
Just how expensive is Carlton Davis going to be? Is my question, right? It's a premium position. He's he's 28, going on 29, I think.
Something like that.
Actually, he'll turn 29 in December of next year. So
but it just feels like your other options internally are kind of made for you, because also Khalil Dorsey, Kindle Vildor, and Emmanuel Mosley are all up as well, and none of those. It's because it's going to be expensive on the open market to get someone to replace Carlton Davis, and I do not think late first round is where you're going to find another CB. And to be honest, I don't want to raise up another rookie CB
gonna say you just tried to do that with Terry and Arnold, so
Yeah.
and
It's
then you double dip, Jeremy. And now
well,
we're
yeah,
back to the Ennis Rakestraw conversation.
right. I mean, it's a really difficult conversation for me because I think edge is a bigger need. I think the Lions
I believe
need
so,
someone opposite Aiden Hutchinson, but I think Carlton Davis is better at his position than Zadarius Smith is.
Dude, I just wonder if they truly need somebody though. Like, I
think
think
they
that
do,
they
but
could
I'd
just
rather.
have a Jag. I think they could have a Jag if they have Aiden Hutchinson because it was working just fine without him.
It wasn't though. I mean, how many times this season were like Aiden Hutchinson still leads this team in pressures in week 13, 14, 15?
I mean, he finished the year tied for the most pressures.
Yeah, that's not acceptable if like
Agreed. I agree. But like I feel like I'd be okay with Zadarius Smith being opposite of Aiden Hutchinson if they can work out the contract. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
I don't see Zadarius Smith as being like,
but let me ask you this.
yeah.
Amik Robertson on the outside, Terry and Arnold on the outside, Ennis Rakestraw nickel. Does that seem that bad to you?
I guess I just wonder, like, can Amik keep this going second half of the season to keep this going for next year?
This wasn't like a flash in the pan season for him. He played well with the Raiders. And to me, like the other unspoken thing about this is, can Carlton Davis stay healthy for an entire year?
No, that's the fair
true.
question to ask about Carlton.
I mean, granted though, like the jaw isn't. That's not
No,
part of his.
no, that. But like
that's
every
for,
single game he got injured
No,
this
I
year.
get it. I get that. I get that. And I would say I would like Brad Holmes to at least work on this. I am kind of tired of going for the open box specials on guys who have these like, oh, we can get him cheap, but also like he has an injury history.
Right.
Like
Marcus Davenport.
Ryan's favorite. I want a Ryan Matthews edict in place about best ability.
That's fair. I do want to say that I think Carlton Davis was by far and away aside from Aiden Hutchinson, I think he was a top 3 player on the defense. I think Carlton Davis was a guy who brought it.
Top 5. Safeties.
I guess to answer that question, I guess maybe, but I'm saying that Carlton's in the mix there.
Yeah.
Like,
no, he's a very talented player, no question.
I think by far here's a statement I feel even more so comfortable with after you just kind of I forgot that the Lions had probably the best safeties in the NFL. By far and away the best cornerback the Lions had this season was Carlton Davis.
Yes, I will agree to that.
The thing that's so frightening though is that as soon as Amik Robertson's arm gets shattered 2 plays into the game, I trust almost nobody else at that position in that game. And then going forward, like Terry and Arnold has to have a huge year going. Like he needs to have the biggest year 2 jump I think of any of the players.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, do I want to put all my eggs in that basket of that happening without a safety net? Like I do trust Amik. I think Amik is a really good football player. But I think that those cornerbacks are just in such. I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, Chris, but I guess what I'm saying is like as far as immediate concerns, like it's the whole chicken or the egg thing with the pass rush or coverage.
Right.
Like we had this conversation going back to Jeff Okudah. Like, what's more important, a lockdown corner or a guy to put opposite of Aiden Hutchinson?
I'm just looking at like the Eagles, even the Rams. Like some of these teams that are winning in the playoffs. I know the Rams just lost. Like they are just
Jared
kicking
Verse
ass
is
on
a
the defensive
monster.
front.
I told you, man. I tried telling people about Jared Verse and replacing, the Donald. Like, man.
I will say this really quick. I think
Turner.
the most important unrestricted free agent is Kevin Zeitler.
I think so. Are you saying this assuming that the Lions are? I mean, God, we're running out of time on the podcast too. We're kind of really getting into our next week's stuff. But like, you know what? I'll save my question for them because I'm assuming you're saying that because of something with. Because I'm wondering where you put Mahogany and like, I guess, are you saying who I think you're saying is kind of a loser in this situation or?
Yep.
Yeah, he's nodding. He's nodding on the visual on the non-visual medium. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's all I wanted.
He'd be great depth.
Yeah.
At 2 positions.
Yeah. Let's wrap it there. I think we're kind of getting ahead of our mission. So I still feel like largely I had a lot of fun with this season, and it's not something I can usually say for a lot of Lions seasons. The way it ends, though, is like it is a stark reminder of reality. As much energy as you have, man, it doesn't take much to derail a season. And 31 teams do not win the Super Bowl. And you can repeat it all you want about, this is the team that should win the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean it's always going to be so. Give me one thing you're looking forward to at least doing with some free time in the off season, at least.
I think this is I'm going to keep it football related. I feel like I haven't written a lot of columns in a long time. I'm kind of ready to get back into that, and I already did it today a little bit, where I'm just like, I got time to answer all these weird takes that are out there. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I don't know, there is something, it's kind of a fault of mine in how I work during the season is I don't do a lot of big projects, big research projects, big interview stuff. I want to get into that a little bit more and provide some thick 2C's content at Pride of Detroit.
Chris, what about you?
I, like Jeremy, have I realized something as I was writing the Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid article, is that I don't do enough writing. And I worry sometimes a lot of that is because I have this microphone to put a lot of my football thoughts down. I probably need to do my writing on some other stuff. I do want to try to get, I've been telling myself for months I'm going to get back to doing some streaming stuff, and I know tomorrow is a Tiki Tuesday. So I will be, I want to talk with people again. I feel like I've locked in a little too hard on this football season, and it's kind of like there's a little bit of rubber band release that I need. What about you, Ryan?
Two things. One, I can't wait to go back to being like a more attentive and involved dad. So it'll be nice to not feel like such a deadbeat all the time. And then two, I just want to read more and not read on my phone. So I got a book for Christmas that I'm eager to dive into.
Great one.
Oh, okay.
So for the non-visual medium, Pat Kerwin's "Take Your Eye Off the Ball." So I can't wait to just like study more ball.
I've got a lot of
not on a
books.
screen though. Like that's the thing.
I've got a lot of paper books, but they're all like fantasy novels.
So, that's cool though. Read.
Yeah.
I just want to encourage people to read.
Read more. I had to deal with some the short-lived TikTok ban. I had to deal with someone around my life who clearly look, I don't want to do a generation thing, but there was definitely some I had to read some of what he wrote, and boy, Ryan, I could probably send you some stuff for some remedial learning there.
I feel like I'm entering that era, I think, of my teacher life where I'm just gonna like push reading on people. Deer, I'm bringing back Deer. Drop everything and read. It's gonna happen once a week.
What about what was the Pizza Hut program?
I'll fund it.
Yeah, do it for adults. Why not?
Yeah. However many books you read, you get that many pizzas.
They still make personal pan pizzas?
You know what I could do? Righteous Felon Craft Jerky. You read a book, and I'll get you a bag of jerky.
Like, that's right.
Careful.
Well,
don't make a product.
That is where we will end it there. Thank you, everyone, for a fantastic season. And remember that PODcast does not end because of the off season. And I thank everyone who has been with us because this is a season that I wasn't sure we'd be able to do in the first place. And not only did we do it, we once again killed all of our records. And we had a live show that was incredibly special and raised a lot of money. And yeah, let's just leave it there. Let's take some time off. It's going to be a little late this week. Next week, we come back in full force. I'll try to have I'm going to talk with Jeremy about some ideas for other stuff we throw on the feed. Are you doing a mailbag at all, Jeremy?
Don't know.
Okay. Might take a week or two off from some stuff like that. Scraps might return at some point. For now, though, Thank you all for this wild ride of the 2024 Detroit Lions season. We'll see you soon, and we will see you Starside.
Recording stopped.
Perfect.
Chaco, one year we actually did a Pride of Detroit book club, and it lasted a month.
Oh yeah, dude. I was either single or not married. I know that for sure. And
I thought it was a great idea, and I was really excited about it. And there was just
me too.
There was very, very little interest from fans. And I don't know what, like 4 of us maybe on staff were doing it, and I think we got 2 books in, and we're just like, we were gonna do it was gonna be a podcast series, right? It was gonna be
POD book
read
club,
and then we're gonna talk about it. It was me, you, and Kato. I know Andrew Kato were involved.
It's the Bill Belichick book, wasn't it? That was one of the ones that we bought.
That was I think maybe a mistake there. That
way too dense.
That was a dense, dry read.
Like let's study football, or if we were doing English, it's like, all right, let's read Pride and Prejudice.
Right.
If we were in like high school, it's like, oh boy.
It was about charting plays. It was like, here's how you should chart a play. Like this is the formation. This is how you write the formation. I'm just like, oh, that was.
I don't need this.
That was tough. That was a tough.
I'm not
start.
trying to be a coach.
Yeah, but I think like that book that you're reading was on the original list. We just never got to it.
Yeah, I think this is the sequel to it.
Yeah.
The 2.0 one. So, Dusty, fan of the show, he's the one who recommended this one to me. So,
Evely?
Yep.
Nice.
So Packers fans can be good for something. And
did you see the
weirdly
article?
enough, weirdly enough, I
thing,
didn't wake up this morning thinking,
how
can I gain the sympathy of Packers fans?
How
could I get Peter Bukowski to feel bad for me?
I went back and forth whether I should have quote tweeted that article or not, because like the point of it,
I had the
that is some Mad Men. I'm not even thinking about you at all. Kind of shit.
I think the title was just the issue, because like the entire point of it was like, wow, the Packers went through something similar in 2012 or something, where like they were the number 1 offense, they were the number 1 seed, and their offense just shit the bed in the divisional round. And I'm like, that's a fun, like that's worth an article. That's worth, but like framing it as you're not going to get any sympathy from us Lions fans. Just like, no one was asking you.
Like, isn't it so easy to just frame that in a different way? Be like, Lions loss, a stark reminder of when your offense goes sideways.
Yeah.
Right.
Or an echo, like Lions loss, a reminder of the Packers loss or misfortunes on offense or something.
Yeah.
Like, rather than like, you're not gonna have us feel bad for you. It's like,
I mean, and
I
here's
don't
like,
want you to feel bad for me, Zachary Jacobson.
From like a headline writing perspective, I think you could have gotten way more. I mean, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. I'll probably see tomorrow whether it did well or not. But like saying Lions loss eerily similar to something like eerily similar to year in Packers history, I think that's going to garner some clicks.
Yep. That's a curiosity gap.
That's a curiosity gap for those in the know. Anyways,
that's some.
I've been having a little bit of fun
God,
because
baseball.
I want to have fun again already.
I really want baseball to start now.
That I don't care about. But if you do, go for it. If that fills the void in your heart,
it will.
With the Lions no longer in there.
Yeah, like I think we all have a different number 2 team in Detroit, and for me it is like, for me it is the Tigers. So
I don't think I have a number 2 anymore.
Not the because I thought you were the Red. I always kind of like pictured us in our head as like Ryan feels like the number 2 is Pistons and Jeremy is the Red Wings, and I get
it.
The
certainly
Tigers.
used to be that way, but Bally Sports ruined everything, and I refuse to pay for FanDuel Sports, and so now I just don't see any other teams play.
I will say though, it is only $14.99 for 2 months.
I justify it for
Total
myself
or
because
each month?
T-Mobile.
I think it's
T-Mobile
Really?
gives me a free MLB TV season every year. So for me, it does not cost me anything to watch the Tigers.
Is that why do they give you that?
it's just one of those things. T-Mobile likes giving away a lot of shit for like free in return for charging pretty high prices or whatever. But they have these like Tuesday arrangements where it's like usually there's like I know these things give away an MLS season pass for a while too, and they'll give away some like kind of just it's their way to entice people to their service. And one of them is like, yeah, hey, we'll give you a free MLB TV, and it works for me because I'm out of market. So,
that's cool. Jeremy, I'll send it to you, but I see it's yeah, you get 2 months of FanDuel Sports Network for $14.99, and the deal's good until January 31st.
So maybe just wait till April in the D.
Well, I was gonna say if you wait until January 31st to use the deal, yeah, you're gonna get it for February and March.
Oh, you said for some reason I thought you said July.
Oh, yeah, no, I said January. So if you use it by the end of January, that's gonna get you through the end of the regular season for both sports, pretty much.
But then I'll be starving for the playoffs.
And then that's
well, neither team is going to be in it.
That's a new stop it. That's a new problem.
What? I don't know if anybody's in the know with how cable companies negotiate and stuff, but like, if I hold out for a couple months that maybe YouTube TV is going to get FanDuel Sports Network, what are my odds that that's going to actually happen? They just raised prices, and the optimist in me is like, okay, well, if they're raising prices, they're going to use that to get better quality stuff.
Yeah.
But the pessimist / capitalist knower knows that they're just squeezing. They're just squeezing for more money, right? Low, super low. Great.
There was a really good interview that Pablo Torre did the other day with somebody who has like some, I forget who it was, but like cable network television knowledge. But just talking about like at the peak of its popularity, like how many more households in America had cable versus like what the streaming numbers are. Like YouTube TV like has like 8 million subscribers or something like that. And it's like at the height of its popularity, I think it was like over 80 something million people had like cable subscriptions or whatever. And it's like, and that's not including like bars that have it. And that's not including,
right,
those other kind of places that had cable network subscriptions. But I don't know, man. It sucks. It sucks to be a consumer of entertainment right now.
Tell me about it. I need to cancel my Netflix. I got it for the playoffs, and I started dragging my feet. I'm like, I really want to watch some stuff on Netflix, and I kind of just let it last, and then they just charged me again.
And it's like, no, you don't. You don't want to watch anything on Netflix.
No, there is something I want to watch on Netflix, but it is anime related.
The thing that Netflix does right now, though, is they lock certain stuff. Like, you have to pay, like, an extra... certain movies or, like, certain series that they have locked. Yeah.
I splurged for the 4K package.
Oh.
So, since I have a 4K TV,
I think Netflix is going to be my first to go because there really isn't that much that I default to Netflix at night when I'm just playing replays of shows I've seen a billion times, and I can drop that out of my life easily.
I'll be honest, the one I kind of miss right now is Max, and I might have to pick up Max again. But
Squid Game sucks.
I will say, because I am an anime guy, like Crunchyroll remains pretty cheap.
I don't know. Do you guys do this? I don't know if you guys do this, but I hate having to like set reminders in my calendar to cancel subscriptions. It's so annoying.
I only remember it because usually a lot of the subscriptions I use my PayPal account. I like charge it to my credit card through my PayPal.
And then you get a PayPal notification. You're like,
and then
damn
I'm
it.
like, so usually I forget about it at least that month, but that's like, you're not gonna fucking get me again. Yeah. Now I know you're coming for me. Like, I will probably forget when my NFL Plus fee comes through, but I'll be able to get the next one. Actually, I should just go get the NFL Plus one right now.
I've had a couple things renew recently that were actually very nice in saying, like, when I was like, oh no, I wanted that canceled, they're like, okay, fine, you can have your money back.
Oh, dude, I wish Amazon Prime was like that, because it was pretty cool to wake up to a charge for $147.
God, is that how much it is now?
I don't know. I'm probably getting raked over the coals, but
No,
like,
you're probably right. I will say, like, there are a lot of companies that if you just put up a little bit of a fit, they're gonna be like, all right, fine, $10 less.
Peacock fucking gave me 6 months at $3.
I have
Hulu will do that too. Like you
Yeah.
go to cancel Hulu and they're like, "All right, we'll give it to you for $1 a month for the next 6 months," and it's like,
I got that for a year.
I'm getting
Really?
that. I'm
Yeah.
currently getting my Hulu through like bundled with Spotify, and I found out Apple Music is finally on Android phones, and I'm about ready to snip that one in the bud, so I can maybe look at a better Hulu plan.
Hulu, you can rake over the coals. I got $10 off a month for YouTube TV.
I still remember the last time I opened my Hulu app is the problem. I don't remember the last time I watched anything on Hulu.
Hulu Only Murders was my number one reason for getting Hulu, and just paying $12 for a full year, that is worth it to me.
yeah.
Like, there are a lot of good FX shows in general that I think having Hulu is nice for.
So I set this up, and I didn't even realize. Okay, let me call out NFL Plus for a second.
Okay.
Miss you already. I didn't see when my plan rolls over, but it says my current plan will expire on 2/8/2025. Think about that for half a second.
That the day of the Super Bowl?
The day before. That's a Saturday.
The day before?
The fucking assholes.
What channel is it on this? Is it Fox? It's Fox, right?
It is Fox. It is Fox. That is one nice thing, is that Fox still doesn't have their own streaming site, but I have my mother's cable login, so it's very easy to get to Fox's streaming app.
Well, it's so cold in Michigan that we don't have school the next 2 days. So
Nice. So you want to go another 2 hours here and just chill?
I'm gonna go watch a national championship game. So
Yep, I need to jump on. If you guys are in Grand Rapids, I'm about to jump on Jethro FM.
All right.
Top of the hour here.
I do have some alerts to go through, and I
And-
do need to talk about the Hulu, ESPN, Disney Plus bundle because I have questions.
Real quick. And tomorrow I am going to stream on my personal channel, and I'll be streaming a lot there.
Tiki Tuesdays, baby.
Tiki Tuesday. I'll have a mug filled up. I don't know what's going to happen with Tiki Tuesday yet, but I have like, that's the other thing I'm going to be doing in the off season. I have like 30 games on my backlog.
man, play video games. Enjoy that.
Speaking of subscription, I just got renewed again for Game Pass, and I'm like, I still haven't fucking played Indiana Jones.
Me neither. I didn't know it was on there.
It's on Game Pass, yeah.
All right. Well, maybe I can do that over the next 2 days. Probably won't. I'm gonna read. Stay away from screens. Keep your kids away from tablets. Or parent, however you want to parent. This was fun. Thanks for doing this with me, guys. This
I hope
kind of made me feel better.
Yeah, I hope that helped for everyone else.
I like to say for those post-game streams after a loss, it's therapy. And I feel like we got some therapy done here today.
But I am very glad that we waited
I was not ready to do it
over
yesterday.
24 hours to do it, because I would have said some unholy things about people had we done this a lot sooner. So
I was worthless yesterday on 2 hours of sleep, and still pretty.
I could not
low.
sleep at all. I did that, and I realized it was like 10 p.m. Pacific, and I'm like, I have to be up at 5 a.m. I don't think I got any REM sleep.
I was so worthless yesterday that I almost feel like I have to apologize to Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, because I think it's the worst thing I've written all year. It was just like I had no inspiration.
I did feel nice in that a former NFL player I know, who maybe I'll have him on for the offseason, but like he was like, you're the first person I thought of going through it after that. There was a lot of people very sympathetic to the Lions.
There were.
I got not Packers fans.
Don't get sympathy from Packers fans. It's kind of the worst and the best experience after something like this when you get a bunch of texts.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's nice that these people are thinking about me, but also like,
well,
can I just not think about this for a little bit and not like, oh, I haven't heard from you in 10 years.
Hold on, I have to say this is
you're gonna remind me of the pain that that's selfish, because they're being nice. They're reaching out to someone that they're thinking about in the moment, and you should do that to people. You should reach out and make sure they're okay. But when I'm in my feel, sometimes I don't feel like that's like I don't want that extra attention.
There was someone close in my life who reached out to me and did something I did not appreciate, and I just sent it to the both of you in Slack.
Jesus Christ. I'd block that guy's number.
Oh my God.
Oh, close personal friends, you know.
All right.
Anyway,
Go leave, Ryan. I'm gonna. If you both want to leave, you can leave. I just got to go through a couple alerts, and then I do want to ask about that bundle. So,
there was one last thing I wanted to say.
The loins.
Oh,
if you say bundle
for sure.
Bundle Ruski, I'm gonna mute you.
No. It was Austin Mammoth's comment where I said that thing about tablets, and Austin Mammoth said that tablet line was a shot at Jeremy.
Dude, I'm gonna be honest. I've had this Galaxy tablet for a week, and I'm not happy with it.
Oh no! Should you have spent more money?
I think maybe I should have gone iPad. I think I made. So I brought it to the game yesterday, and I wanted it so I could replay and just have YouTube TV, and it just the internet, and sometimes the internet's slow because there's a billion people on the same network, but it just I got the spinny wheel so many times that it just became useless.
Yeah, no, not great. Buyer's remorse. You can return it, can't you?
I think I'm debating whether I'm going to. I don't know whether it is.
Well, good luck.
All right.
Bye.
Enjoy your Taco Bell bundle.
I'm not going to the bar, baby. Real salt of the earth people.
B-dubs? I'll see you there.
No, I'm going to a trailer park bar to watch the national championship game.
I love that.
See you guys.
See you, dude. All right, let me get to some alerts. I don't know if Chris is going to stay here or not. He's going to be Eric for the rest of the podcast. Where was I? Oh, we don't really have that many. Oh, wait, no. I'm looking at the wrong one. That doesn't update. Nick the Greek 100 bits says, iconic moment next year will occur when Caleb Williams cries wet, sloppy tears into Ben Johnson's comforting bosom after the Bears lose the divisional round of the playoffs.
Did I come back to a Nick the Greek one?
You sure did. We've moved on from Matt Patricia bosoms to now the most recent, not discarded head coach, but...
Yeah. This is a guy I got to spend a lot more time with in the offseason. This is a guy who's been fucking neglected.
Justin, I'm probably going to refund your Zazu request because I think he is waiting by his bowl of food right now.
Well, I'm about to let Ruby go because I intercepted him on the way there, and that's why I stepped away. So here,
there you go.
You go eat.
Arnick, 45 months subscribed to the channel, says, the discourse online since the game and today with BJ leaving has been embarrassing by Lions fans, but thank you for bringing me back today and for the season of great content. Keep it up, fellas. Yeah, I haven't been happy with it either, Arnick, but you also have to realize that Lions fans are not in the best emotional state right now. They're not thinking and there's a certain subset of fans that will always act in this emotional way. But I'm trying to show a little bit of grace. I haven't shown that grace online, but I'm trying to show a little bit more grace of people that are just pissed off right now. And that piss offedness is just shooting in multiple directions in ways that don't deserve to be said out loud. But that's just people are in an irrational mood right now, and I get it.
I got asked in the post-game stream if the Lions should blow it up. So, I totally get where people are just... It's not the best headspace right now. I get it. This is new for a lot of people. But I forget who I was talking about today, but, the sad thing is this is life now for the... this is what everyone else feels like. I think, was it Nick writing that article is it's not always... being a real NFL team isn't happiness. It's feeling this pain at the end of a season.
Right. That
was meaningful to you, and you come up short.
This is what we signed up for.
Yeah.
This is what we've been wanting, right? Is we want the Lions to play in meaningful games. This is one of the things I wrote. It's unfortunately, when you're on the other side, you don't necessarily realize that playing in big games generally means losing in big games, and that comes with a whole new brand of hurt.
Mm-hmm. As I keep saying, 31 teams do not win the Super Bowl. Just think how many teams step up to the plate, take big cracks in the playoffs, even teams that go to the playoffs all the time. I'm not just talking about the Steelers, like the Ravens, with Lamar Jackson still haven't won a Super Bowl. And they're a team that has won a Super Bowl at least in the last 15 years.
Yep.
A lot of other teams who keep making it to the playoffs who do not win the damn Super Bowl. The 49ers. The 49ers might be at the end of their rope with Shanahan with no Super Bowl to show for it. And I do not believe that if this team had stumbled any closer to the Super Bowl, it would have been any different. You would have still felt this way even if you lost in New Orleans, I feel like.
Yeah, on some level. I mean, I think some of it depends on how it would have gone down, but yeah, it's... As Arif Hassan put it so perfectly a year ago when I was talking to him about, like, the stress of having a good team, the ulcers are different. Yeah. It's still ulcers. They're just different now.
Yep.
All right. I think we should probably get on that, particularly because the game is about to start.
Yep. And I've got to go on Grand Rapids Radio. So Jethro FM, Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh, for those who want to hear. I think I'm up at like 8 p.m.
There you go. I'm guessing we probably will have a midweek mailbag, but I haven't even discussed it with Eric yet.
Hey man,
we're
if we want to
scrambling.
just take a week off, it's fine.
Yeah, might do that too. But either way, you can follow us on all the socials. If you're following us on YouTube and Twitch, just make sure you have your alerts set up so that when we do go live, you don't miss it. We'll keep PODD running all off season, at least an article every week. I know Ty's working on a piece for that. We'll see where that goes in the future, but as Chris said, we very much appreciate you guys being on the ride with us this entire time.
Am I going to be allowed to remain? Am we still having podcast?
I guess that's always something that we have to think about in the off season from now on. But yeah, I mean, the highs are never as high without celebrating them with you guys. The lows never hurt as much when you get to share that emotion, when you get to share the burden with all of you guys. So definitely appreciate you guys hanging with us. I know there's a lot of Lions fans. I've gotten emails from a bunch of them that are like, I'm sorry, I love your guys' content, but I'm gone for a month. I just can't handle this. I get it.
That's fine.
If that's what you need to do, go do that. If you do want to stay, if you do want to experience this all together and go through the off season, we're not going anywhere until they tell us we can't be here. So it has been a very special season. I don't like to get into the conversation of successful versus failure, good, bad. It just was. The season was. So appreciate you guys being there. Please do.
On the No Decaf Twitch channel, there is a points redemption for an NFL mock draft.
And there will never be one here.
There won't be one here, but there will be one there. Just thought people should know.
Oh, and the other thing too is we'll start digging into some of those Movember rewards too. There's still some left over from 2023. You guys need to get yourself some suspenders.
I do. I think I've got a cold strip here soon, and I do know I am still desperately trying to clean up my kitchen from all my work around the holidays so we can actually have a proper cooking stream. I think I finally got an idea for what to do with the cameras for that. So that's coming sooner rather than later.
Yep. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. Enjoy the college football game. I think we can all agree that we really want the Meteor to win.
Good game.
Yeah.
I just want a good game.
No, just ugly. I want every player on the field to feel bad about themselves at the end of the game.
No, please don't, because there's a lot of guys on Notre Dame I would like to see drafted. Maybe one of them by the Detroit Lions.
I don't want them to get hurt. I just want them to feel bad about themselves.
That is being hurt emotionally, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm cool with them feeling hurt emotionally.